right, let's get this started. I've got to check the audio, make sure the audio is there to check. We're down a person this morning, but okay, be all right. Coming in, can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right, just checking. Audio's good, excellent. All right, let's see. Now there's a lot of buttons in front of me. What happens if I push this one?
Even outside, it's packed.
Clearly. Very obviously that. How about, it's Friday, I'll push this one. Wish me luck. Hey, there we are. Welcome to the show, everybody. Good to see you. Good morning. And first, right off the bat, I want to send love to Andrea, who had a bit of an issue last evening. We will not play it up or play it down. It's, but it was, I guess, cardiac related, I guess, is the word going around. But she's all right. Saw a picture of her this morning. At least I think she posted it this morning in our staff chat. And so love to her, and making sure that, you know, we all collectively are sending love out to Andrea this morning. Just saying. And we're pulling for you, and we hope you're okay, and be well and get well and stay well, Andrea. We're just saying that. So hi. If you're seeing this now, big hug. If you're seeing this later, even bigger hug. Because it's time delayed, and I feel like it should have something to do with it. So I hope you're okay. And don't send chat room. I will say, and let me welcome you in here. Chat room. Don't send her too much love, because we don't want a shock to the system. We want her to ease into the love. As a matter of fact, it's sort of a loving support that should sneak up on her and go, oh, hi. You know, as opposed to like, I love you. You know what I mean? Because it's not, I'm just saying on a practical level. Sorry, somebody was saying Midas Touch was just reporting that Trump reposted what? Hold on. I'll scroll back to this. Sometimes the chat goes by so fast. How can I even give it? By the way, hey, Mark. Thank you for being on duty. Good to see you. Audio spot on. Good to hear you. Excellent. Coming in hot. There we go. I'm scrolling. Though my chat is swollen. Don't forget to hit that like, by the way. Hit the like right now. Just do it. I know you're going to like the show, so just go ahead. We have so much to talk about, and not the least of which is that the Detroit news, you got to lose your mind in Detroit Rock City, I got to say. And I will say, one of the, I guess, the best memories I have, and there's many of them, that I have with my dear friend Rob Hall, who passed away, was he and I going to see Kiss when they performed at Cobo Hall for the last time, on my birthday, many, many moons ago in Detroit at that classic venue. And so I got a special place in my heart for Detroit. I'm a big fan, and I wish great things for the future of that city. I just feel that there's going to be some sort of like Detroit for the electric car / hover car. I'm just saying the world's first land speeders with no contact with the earth are going to be made in Detroit. I'm calling it, and we're going to leave it at that. Have you seen the movie Detroit Rock City? Yes, I have. Don't ask a Kiss fan about Detroit Rock City. It's not enough Kiss in it. I'm just saying. It's what, yeah. What are you gonna do about it? And I'm glad some people are saying like the jacket. Thank you. I love this jacket. I wear it on stage sometimes when I'm playing music, but I'm just feeling it this morning. And I know there's two. You know, these days it's interesting. You know how like some people would wear like MAGA hats, partly for their support, I guess, of Donald Trump, but also for, you know, they used to think, oh, it upsets the libs. Oh, the libs. Won't the libs get upset? And most of us are like, okay, just know not to talk to that asshole. Like that, it was more like a signal than anything else. It was like, oh, all right. You know what I mean? Or I have to say, yeah, at least 3 times I spoke to someone wearing a MAGA hat, and I'm dead serious about this. They were being ironic. They were wearing it like as a hipster joke. It was 2 in LA and 1 in Chicago, and they literally were doing it just to like see who would come up to them, you know, and talk to them, and then just it was kind of like subterfuge. And that's always the problem with, where the symbol overrides the worth, right? And I'm trying to infuse the worth back into the symbol. You know what I mean? So, anyways, yeah, proud Biden voter, proud patriot. It's very confusing for their little brains. Yeah, yeah. Is Tara coming on today? No, she's on Mondays. So yeah, so there we have no guests this morning, and largely because Andrea organizes those things, and she needs a break. We'll just say it like that. She's in the hospital, so it's just you and me against the world. Just we're alone. I think we're alone now. Does it seem to be anyone around? Think we're alone now. I'm an adult. Okay, so so good morning and welcome. Obviously, the big story, if I may, and I think that I can. Let's go straight to it. It's over here. It is relatively lined up. I try to do this and everything changes sizes. Trump was recorded pressuring Wayne County canvassers not to certify the 2020 vote. All right, Lordy, there are tapes, ladies and gentlemen. If I may, oh man, oh Shevitz. Here, I don't know why this should be larger because the title's big or something. It's just odd. I find it interesting as big, Tom Hartman fans as we are, to find that one of the people involved in this is last name Hartman. He was one of the canvassers. And by the way, the fact that he was pressuring the canvassers, there's a double layer of lie. Well, I'll get to that in a second, but remind you why there's a double layer of lie going on in what Trump was doing around the fact that these folks were canvassers, if I get too far off in reading this. But let's jump in. The then president, no longer president, former president, Donald Trump personally pressured two Republican members of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers not to sign the certification of the 2020 presidential election, according to recordings reviewed by the Detroit News and revealed publicly for the first time. On a November 17th, 2020 phone call, which also involved a Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel. Ronna, help me, Ronna. Which again, I gotta say, you can't shit all over the head of the RNC if she might be aware these recordings are out there and she's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, how about fuck you on the chessboard of life? Yeah, those are good. Trump says no concession, but January 6, 2020 recorded threatening phone calls. Trump should be banning running. Yeah, well, we'll get in there in a moment. Okay, so Trump told Monica Palmer and William Hartman, who is dead, by the way. William Hartman died in 2021. Yeah. Because I remember the story about this, but the fact that there's recordings is now the real news about it. The two GOP Wayne County canvassers, they looked terrible. You'd look so bad if you did this and then you did it. Okay. If they signed the documents after they first voted in opposition and then later in the same meeting voted to approve the certification of the county's election results according to the recordings. Now, obviously, between their as canvassers who have to sign off on it and then refusing to and then doing it, there was time that passed. Rashida Tlaib is dangerous. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's kind of what my bigots hijacking the left thing was about in the thumbnail. But in the time between them saying, I'm not going to certify this thing, and them actually doing it where he thinks they'll look terrible, shit happened. Lots of shit happened. Do you understand? Lots of shit happened in those meetings where details were put forward. And these people, whether they wanted to or not, had to confront the fact that, and again, this goes to the canvasser part of it, which should stand out, that these motherfuckers went door to door and went, did you really vote for Joe Biden instead of Donald Trump? And they went, yeah. And they went, fuck. All right, Doc, did you really go to vote for Joe Biden instead of shit? Like, when they were part of the ballot curing, and I don't know if these two in particular did it, but they certainly knew the people in their group that did, they went around, they knew personally that it didn't go their way. That's the point. And then they sat in a fucking meeting or several meetings where they were going, yep, this is from my district. Okay, what's the result from your district? Oh, we did it. And ours, we were touchy, and he got all mad, so we did a recount, and we found 25 more Biden votes. Motherfucker, thump, And so in between them, I'm not going to sign this, and I am going to sign this, was a shit ton of reality. And he's like, you look terrible. New information is no excuse for changing your mind. Right, that's the whole thing. Okay. After they first voted, okay, we've got to fight for our country. Oh, and I'm using that fight word again. I used to let it slide. I really did, because I understood it as the euphemism, and I would stack it with the whole, holy shit, if I'm not home by 11:30, my parents are going to kill me, and obviously they're not going to murder you for being a half hour late. So you don't really mean kill. And in this particular situation, they mean struggle. But you can't say, we really got to struggle, because it sounds like you're going to lose. So fight, right? So fight is always the word. But he means it. He said, he was like, walk down there peacefully and patriotically. But once you get there, you're going to have to fight, or we won't have a country anymore. I'm like, well, that's basically don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes. All right. We got to fight for our country. We can't let these people take our country away from us. What do you mean, voters? It ain't yours. It's everybody's. It's a democratic process. Fucknut. All right. Trump on the recordings made by a person who was present for the call with Palmer and Harmon. McDaniel, a Michigan native and leader of the Republican Party nationally, still, by the way, I'd like to remind you that as much as they're bitching about her, she's still head of of the RNC. So that's funny. I think that's funny. There's a little bit of Eddie Izzard just comes out whenever I say I think that's funny. It's hard not to do the Eddie Izzard. I think that's funny, because he was a genocidal fuckhead when he was talking about Hitler. Never mind. All right. If you can go home tonight, do not sign it. We will get you attorneys. Okay. First of all, Trump had this habit. I don't know if you remember, during campaign seasons, especially in like 2015, 2016, where he was like promising legal support if somebody beat the shit out of a protester at one of his rallies or something like that. Never fucking happened. Any of those people that were actually, if somebody filed a charges later, or for assault or something later, Trump never went to the fucking mat for any of these maggots, right? Not once. He never supplied any of these assholes with it. I don't remember. Does anybody remember a single time? Because I couldn't find one, where they were like, he paid for a lawyer. Right. He said, I'll pay for your lawyer. That just did not happen. Yeah. Yeah. So, and again, it's nice to know that wasn't the only place he was promising to get people fucking attorneys and then stiffing them like an asshole. Thank you. I guess the jacket's becoming very popular. I wasn't aware that it would be as popular as it is, but I rocking and rolling and whatnot. So the collar pops out on this side. It's almost better up. I think it's better up, but it folds forward. I'll fix it. Don't worry about it. I guess you can't iron it because this is leather. The struggle is real. Struggle is real. Also, hashtag love you, Andrea. Big hug. Just saying, we should throw a bunch of hashtags in there on your social medias and send love to Andrea this morning. Okay. I'm going to keep reminding you guys throughout. And also hit that like while you're at it, because it pushes us up into the algorithm above all those assholes who are like blaming Biden for every problem in the fucking world, while he's nearly single-handedly being the one calming voice in all this nonsense. All right. And we will get to more of those assholes in just a moment. But meanwhile, okay. Palmer and Hartman left the canvassers meeting without signing the official statement of votes for Wayne County, which is what Trump had asked/ordered them to do. And with the idea that I guess they would be supplied with attorneys to protect them later. And the following day, they unsuccessfully attempted to rescind their votes in favor of certification, filing legal affidavits claiming they were pressured by reality. Right? Reality sometimes will come crashing down on you, and it's very hard to lift the whole thing up, to raise that roof, as it were. The moves from Palmer, Hartman, and Trump have been successful, had they been successful, threatened to throw the statewide certification of Michigan's 2020 election into doubt, which is, like they're always in doubt. Like they doubt for a living. Just saying. Also, real quick, if our beloveds in the in our Discord, is the recording available? I wasn't able to find it this morning in my looking around. I just saw the articles on it, but not like, have they posted the recording? It says publicly available, but I don't, it seems like they're playing fast and loose with that. Didn't seem that public. So, yeah. The revelation of the contents of the call with the former president comes as he faces 4 counts of criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States and its voters of rightful outcome of the election. Efforts to prevent certification of Democrat Joe Biden's 154,000 vote victory in Michigan are an integral part of the indictment. Yep. The call, involving Trump, Daniel, Hartman, and Palmer, occurred within 30 minutes of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers meeting ending on November 17th, 2020, according to records reviewed by the news. There was also because of the Jan 6 committee, I think there were call logs that they actually had, like, that Ronna McDaniel just had gotten a phone call, I guess. Maybe they'll talk about it in this, but they actually specifically note that, like, you'll notice that this recording was made at this time and she received a call at this time from this person, right? And notice how different that is from, say, Comer's evidence. Just saying. The recordings further demonstrate the direct involvement of Trump as an incumbent president with the Republican officials in Michigan in a bid to undermine Biden's win, and how some details of his efforts had remained secret as he launched a campaign to win back the White House in 2024. Neither Palmer nor McDaniel and Trump, through spokespeople, disputed a summary of the call, especially McDaniel, because she's not going to help this dumb son of a bitch. She wasn't part of it. She just listened in. So she didn't, I'm sure she was like, "You're getting this, right? You're recording this," because apparently the person who recorded it wants to remain anonymous, and rightly so, because as you saw from just the judges in Colorado, these motherfuckers will hunt you down and make you a target, metaphorically speaking. So far, let's see. Yeah, neither Palmer nor McDaniel, Trump, through spokespeople, disputed a summary of the call when contacted by the news. Hartman died in 2021. The news listened to audio that was captured in 4 recordings by someone present for the conversation between Trump and the canvassers. Ooh, who could it be? Who could it be? The obvious is in Ronna McDaniel's office. The obvious, to me, that would be my immediate call, because she's like, okay, fuck this dude. I'm covering my ass in case this comes back to bite me, The other one could be, and this is probably the most hilarious, besides like Kash Patel recording it for, to release. You too can have a piece of a Trump recording in an NFT. For $99, you can hear conjunctions from recordings of Trump breaking the law. I think the funniest part is like, oh my God, you're on the phone with Donald Trump. I have to record this for posterior. This is right. I guarantee that's how it happened. Some asshole friend of theirs was like, oh my fucking God, I have to get this. Oh, it's amazing. He's going to get, I got the part where he said he's going to get you an attorney. This is awesome, right? Totally how it happened. One of the biggest problems Trump has right now is his dead enders, because they will save fucking everything, right? I recorded it. And they're like, oh fuck, I recorded it. A subpoena showed up at my door. That's exactly how it happened. They collect all of his shit. Oh, hold on. Let me check in on something. Is there everybody's okay? Okay. We're good. All right. Normally I'm, if I do not disturb on, I was worried my mom was contacting me, but yeah. Yeah, audio NFTs. It was a perfect call. You too can own a part of this perfect phone call. We're releasing snippets of NFTs of individual words, because if you put too many of the words together, you'll realize I was committing a crime. But single words can be yours as an NFT recording that will be in your wallet. And every time you open your wallet, it will go Rudy. Or if you're lucky, one of the fabulous ones will be C or speech or podium. Listening to the president say podium, I say podium so well. I say podium. People are like, you say podium, very respected people. You say podium better than anyone, right? MSNBC played it this morning. Fantastic. All right. They probably have access to it, but it's not on here. Anyways, here they are. By the way, that's Monica Palmer, and I think that's Hartman next to her. Is it? Yeah, that's Hartman. That's not our Hartman. That's their Hartman. And he passed away. Rest his soul. And is that smart water? Are they drinking smart water? Like hawked by left-wing Hollywood celebrities? Sir, your pronunciation of podium is wonderful. We should make that multiple of it. If you buy 47 words from my perfect phone call, I will leave a message on your machine incriminating myself while eating chocolate cake. It's sort of like a ventriloquism thing I do. Yeah, she's drinking woke water. Stephen Chung, a Trump campaign spokesman, said Trump's actions were taken in furtherance of his duty as president of the United States to faithfully take care of the laws and ensure election integrity, including in investigating the rigged and stolen 2020 presidential election. Yeah, they've just gone straight from trying to defend him to we need to say something that's a legal statement to cover our ass because this is the defense they're running in court, and it's not going to hold water at all, especially not woke water. Dear God. So President Trump and the American people have the constitutional right to free and fair elections. Right, without the sitting president interjecting in the process when he's losing, trying to manipulate it for his own benefit. Again, I will state unequivocally that the reason why Trump said there was lots of fraud in this, we know it for sure, it's because he paid for it. And he paid for it in places like Texas, where he thought he looked at the outlier poll, got panicked, and paid some asshole to drum up some votes for him in Texas so he could clear it and make sure he got it by a big swath. Because he's like, if I lose or even get close to losing Texas, it's terrible. It'll cascade across the night, blah, 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 right? So he arranged the fraud. That's why he knew where it was. It was rigged and stolen. I rigged it, and they stole it by not letting my rigging work. All right. Allegations the 2020 election was stolen remain unproven. Well, it's proven that it wasn't stolen. I think that's the other way around. I mean, it's not that they remain unproven. It's proven that it wasn't. How many fucking recounts do you need? Good Lord. In Michigan, a Republican-controlled state Senate committee investigated the claims and found no evidence of widespread fraud, which would say that they have proven that the election was fair. It doesn't mean that they didn't. You can't, like, I guess, let's see, how do we analogize this with Bigfoot? Let's just say you go out in the woods and you walk around for a little while and you go, allegations that Bigfoot is in the woods still remain unproven because you didn't get a picture of him, but you didn't find it, and you didn't find a dead one, and you didn't find footprints or droppings, but you didn't see the whole woods. But let's say you had drones and human beings scan the fucking forest where you're looking 3 fucking times, and then you had lawsuits about the content of that video asserting that, yes, the infrared scanning that was done by the drones and the individuals who walked, arm's length like a search party from each other across the entire fucking ground, all of them said, yeah, I didn't see a fucking Bigfoot at all, right? Yeah. So that would be that they proved that there's no Bigfoot, at least in that area of woods, right? That's what that's what we're talking. And these motherfuckers are like, I don't know, maybe Bigfoot was up, in the trees, and he's got a body temperature of 13 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's the trick he plays on everyone. Okay. Maybe Bigfoot's an angel, right? That's the fallback, motherfucker. So, let's see. McDaniel, a Wayne County resident, said she stood by her past push for an audit of the election in Michigan and request She and then Michigan Republican Party Chairwoman Laura Cox made in November 21st, 2020 letter for the Board of State Canvassers. What I said publicly and repeatedly at the time, as referred in my letter of November 21st, 2020, is that there was ample evidence that warranted an audit. No, there wasn't. There were maybe concerning stories or allegations, not evidence. Because if there was evidence that warranted the audit, then the audit would have successfully overturned the election. Just, I mean, I understand. That's if the word evidence actually has any meaning anymore, which it kind of doesn't, I guess, in the Republican Party especially. But Jonathan Kinlock, who was a Democratic member of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers in November 2020, said what happened on the call with Trump was insane. It was just shocking that the president of the United States was at the most minute level trying to stop the election process from happening. Yeah. Despite the urging from McDaniel to seek an audit or not sign the certification, Michigan law required county canvassers across the state to prepare a statement of the voters in their counties and advance their findings to the secretaries of state. Yeah. Prepare a statement of the votes in their counties and advance the findings to the Secretary of State's office. About 18% of Michigan's population resides in Wayne County, and there were about 878,000 votes cast there for the November 2020 election. Palmer previously said she left the November 17, 2020 Wayne County Board of Canvassers meeting prior to physically signing the certification. As she was leaving, Trump called out of a genuine concern for my safety. Palmer told reporters 3 years ago. He just called. He was worried about me. He was like, I think, I hear you're in generally a very, let's just say, not whitish, kind of not Ted Nugent-y area, perhaps. Right. Back then, she described described the contents of the call with Trump as, "Thank you for your service. I'm glad you're safe. Have a good night." There was a little more of a conversation than "Thank you for your service. Be safe. Good night." Like, it was just so exciting to get that "be safe." Obviously, it went on for several minutes, and he berated me and cajoled me and urged and frightened and threatened and scared me, and yeah. So yeah, exactly. And yes, and Cynthia's pointing out that Biden won Michigan by over 100,000 votes, so that Trump had zero chance of winning at recount. Yeah, and every time they did these things, they kept finding across the country more Biden votes every fucking time. All right. The segments of the call reviewed by the news didn't include those comments. So not only did he say lots more than that, he didn't say that at all. However, in the days after the call on November 17, 2020, Palmer and Hartman publicly attempted to rescind their votes and said intense bullying and coercion plus bad legal advice forced them to agree to certify the election after they had voted no. Bad legal advice? Well, then I take it back. Maybe Trump did get them a lawyer. If it was bad legal advice, sounds like somebody Trump hired. Maybe that's just how it's going to work out. Like, never know what happened. During an interview in September 2021, Palmer told the U.S. House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol that she couldn't recall the exact words that Trump used on the call and whether he raised issues related to the election. Okay. Bullshit. There is no way that a Trump canvasser who did what she was fucking told to do on that phone call does not remember it word for fucking word. Not possible. It's absurd. She had a conversation with the fucker. She was talking to the president of the United States. He called a canvasser in Michigan, and they were on fucking speakerphone. Somebody was recording this shit. Good Lord. Of course she remembers it. So perjury. All right. The recordings reviewed by the news, which covered 4 minutes of a longer exchange that could have lasted no more than 11 minutes, according to phone records, because we have phone records. You see, it's kind of like, what's the thing we're looking for in all the Hunter Biden stuff? Oh, yes, metadata, of which there is fucking none. Except, by the way, I will say a little bit of there should be a little asterisk that I can pop up, like, doing, little asterisk. There is metadata on the Bed Bath and Beyond coupons and spam that's in some of the Hunter Biden stuff, not on their side, but by retroactive dating. I mean, so like all the emails and everything on there have been copied and recopied and copied and recopied so many times that the metadata is dead. Effectively, it's a wash. It's untraceable because it's just been copied so many times. But you can tell that on this particular date, the Bed Bath & Beyond sent out this particular flyer, and that one's available in the emails. Does that mean it ended up in that email file the same day this came? No, it doesn't. It just means they went through a bunch of things, found shit that happened on the dates that they needed, and then they backfill with spam. That's another way that you fake. Yeah, anyways. Epstein list will be published on January 1st. Fan-fucking-tastic. I'm for it. I don't care. Yeah. And by the way, I will caveat that Epstein wasn't stupid. He was disgusting and a monster, but he was clever at the very least. And he would oh, there she is. Andrea, she's in the chat. Andrea has returned. Andrea has returned. Look at that. She's you think one little heart attack would keep me away from you guys, did you? I kind of did, at least for a couple of hours. I'm very impressed. Andrea. Yes, please relax. Don't get too excited. I'm going to do a very quiet show right now. Everybody settle down. All right. No exclamation points. Quit it. Kelly, you can't put yay with 2 exclamation. Shh. It was my fault. I did it. I started the applause. So shh. We're going to do the rest of the show like this. It's going to be okay. Andrea, just relax. And I'm going to be NPR today. That's okay. Everybody quit. Stop typing in all caps. God damn it. Chat rooms, quit it. What is wrong with you people? Please. No everybody. Hold on. This scrolled by because it happened so fast. Shh, everybody. Yes. AMR, which is going to be hello and welcome to the show this morning. Everybody just relax. We're going to have a groovy kind of a show. And we're going to play some wave jazz. All right. I'm going to settle right in here. Yeah. What if it's an acronym surrendering now? All right. Now one of the biggest hits from George Michael, Careless Whisper, Wham, easing us into the evening as we all drift to sleep, as we relax returning from our worry about Andrea. Now we're settling in. We're kind of, we'll be okay. And then make sure that she's feeling all right. And we just everybody get on the floor and start napping. It's all best. We just stay. I have so much stuff. Okay. You're Pokey, stop it. Do not, Pokey. Fix your caps lock. You're gonna kill somebody. We're so glad to see you, Andrea. Please relax and enjoy the show. And I'll try and not be funny because I'm a bit concerned. Because I mean, I guess technically speaking, if you do bust a gut, you're in the perfect place. Are you still at the place, at the big place with the beeping machines and the people in the smocks with the masks going, I'm going to put this in your tube right now, and you're going to feel a little funky for 1 second, but it's okay. Did you ever see that thing about the nurse that killed people? Anyways, I watched it last night. It's fascinating. I'd love to talk about it, but I gotta go do my rounds. I'm kidding. Pokey, stop it. I should do a midnight romantic music, but that's probably where my ultimate talent is. In high school, I was told I had a face for radio. So, all right, back to where we were. Real news. Come on, get serious about having fun. Recordings reviewed by the news, which covered 4 minutes of this, clearly showed Trump was focused on the 2020 election. You think? Is he focused on anything else besides, I guess, launching missiles into Mexico and, I guess, still not ability to do Kelly show home tomorrow, overnight stay in the hospital. Well, relax and enjoy the Jello, Andrea. She's gonna stay in. Okay, yes, you're Andrea. We're holding you over for observation. All of us are. we're holding you for observation. So I don't know if you can feel this, but there it is. That's it. That's the. I know you're smaller than that, but I'm including some of the bedding and the tubes. I'm messing with you. Come on. All right. And you just got a hug from CSL in the Discord as well. By the way, hit the like. I mean, not just for me, but for everyone involved in the show. Come on. All right. Trump said Republicans have been cheating the election. Everybody knows Detroit is crooked as hell, according to recordings. I saw a movie where they were like busting open giant barrels of whiskey, and I don't know, something about Jimmy Hoffa. And you have to understand, all my knowledge about America ends in the middle of a Steven Seagal / maybe Chuck Norris movie that I was sort of half-ass watching in the middle of it, and I lost interest in 1980. And so every vision I have of the United States is all through the window of, we got to get tough because the judges are letting these guys out, and a cop has to be on the street. That's even though streets are gross. Hey, look, there's a picture of Trump and the guy he hates more than anybody. McDaniel and said if Hartman and Palmer certified the election without forcing an audit to occur, the public would, quote, never know what happened in Detroit. And now we do know. Biden won. Yeah. Shocking. Oh, good. I'm glad, Andrea. How can anybody sign something when you have more votes than people? You didn't, dummy. Trump asked the canvassers according to recordings. You didn't. You didn't have more votes than people. And also, do you know how like military people vote away from home, but they vote in the district that they're from because they get stationed and they don't see? Okay, one of the reasons why Trump is an enormous dumbass and a coward, Captain Bone Spurs, if I must remind you, is that he doesn't recognize that when you and I move someplace in the United States, we move from one district to another, and we have a different, maybe the congressional makeup of the area, right? We may not feel like we have a bigger say in the two state senators, but in our congressional district, we might move to an area that's good for us, or we feel good about it, or what have you. Good place to raise kids, blah, 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 whatever, all the reasons people move. And then you, because you chose to go there, you vote for that district, right? You vote, I moved here, I have a say because I'm a resident of this district. When you're in the military, you get put someplace. You get posted someplace, and when you're there, you still vote where you were from because you're assigned to this place in a non-political way. Right? If they move you to, Fort Liberty or any of these other places, you're still from fucking NorCal or Idaho or wherever the fuck you're from. So you vote from there because they could move you again and assign you someplace else. But your permanent resident status, I guess it's different for officers who permanently relocate. I guess they can if they want to re-register. But if you're an enlisted person and a family, you can be moved all over the fucking place, especially if you're overseas. And guess what? Guess which communities tend to are statistically overrepresented in the military? Yeah, the kind of people who live in Detroit a lot of times. Yeah, and those folks take their families and they vote for what's going on in Detroit because that's where the rest of their family is, and that's where, in theory, unless they decide otherwise, in which case they can re-register in some other place, they're going to go back after they're not assigned there anymore. Right? Okay. So, the fact that he was president for 4 fucking years and doesn't know something so basic like that. Oh, thanks for the gifted subs. Oh yeah, that's right. By the way, I got to remind everybody. Our goal is 1,000 Twitch subs and 100,000 subscribers. I look, I can't just drive around the country with a cattle prod. You just got to hit the like and the subscribe and share the show and the clips and all that stuff, and that'll help. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So yeah, you can't. And by the way, they didn't have more votes than people. Just period. I mean, technically speaking, but to it like a little sliver about that big. Any place that has, during the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, especially, there were tons of areas in, say, places like South Carolina, especially, where they had people, they were overseas, right? So there were a lot of congressional districts that had more votes than people in South Carolina and in Georgia and in fucking Florida and certainly Texas, because the military votes are physically somewhere else, but they're voting in their district. I should do a subathon on Twitch. All right, like another 24-hour thing. All right, well, man, it's not a bad idea. It's kind of true. Yeah, it is how you do it. But it also means being on like a maniac. Like, I'm not getting off until I have 1,000 subscribers. God damn it! Which means you have to hit 1,200 because that's the attrition rate. Anyways, all right, here we go. All right, about 13 hours after the call, Trump posted on social media about Wayne County, again saying there were more votes than people. The two harassed patriot canvassers refused to sign the papers. So he just called and said, "Great work, be safe, good night." But all right. Trump's statement about there being more votes than people was inaccurate. There were only out-of-balance precincts in Detroit where there were mismatches between the number of ballots counted and the number of voters tracked. The absentee ballot poll books at 70% of Trump's. The absentee ballot poll books at 70% of Detroit's 134 absentee counting boards were initially found to be out of balance without explanation, an outcome that was not unusual for the largest city in Michigan. In addition, Trump performed, and let's see, we'll look at that deeper in a second. In addition, Trump performed better in Detroit in 2020 than in 2016, with his percentage of votes rising from 3% to 5%. Ooh, killing it. Yeah. And the Republican receiving 5,200 more votes in 2020 than 4 years ago. That's the jump. 5,200 votes is 2% in that area. Okay. Jonathan Brader, Michigan's election director, said in an affidavit that the overall difference citywide in absentee ballots tabulated and names in poll books in Detroit was 150. There were fewer ballots tabulated than names in the poll books, because not everybody voted who could vote absentee, and other people, a lot of Republicans tried to vote twice. a lot of, it's interesting, that we've never seen this woman, with the hat, right? A call at night. Join us, won't you, on the next episode of The Kidney. Episode 5. The Call at Night. The high-profile Wayne County canvassers meeting drew a national spotlight as supporters of Trump publicly urged the board not to certify the election based on unproven allegations of widespread fraud. But there was 150 people that could have voted absentee that didn't. So, Hartman and Palmer initially voted to block the certification, withholding votes needed to approve certification. But later in the meeting, they changed course and supported certifying the election based on the condition that an audit take place of some precincts within Wayne County. And they had one. And what was the result? Trump still lost. Later, Hartman and Palmer refused to sign the official certification paperwork and publicly acknowledged they received a call from Trump and McDaniel. Palmer and Hartman participated in the call inside a vehicle that was parked outside the county election department building on East Jefferson Avenue in Detroit. Hartman was sitting next to Palmer during the call. "I'm sitting here with," you hear the call, "I'm sitting here with my Palmer. And if this deal if these votes aren't found, I'm going to make sure that with the help of Palmer sitting next to me, that your name is going to be mud in this town, which I understand is not good." Palmer and Hartman participated in the call as a vehicle. Okay, Kinlock said Hartman and Palmer left the meeting room on the night of November 17th, 2020, and never came back to sign the official statement of votes for Warren County. Because Trump told them not to, and that he would get a lawyer for them if they were arrested or sued or whatever. The Michigan Bureau of Elections later told county officials the vote that occurred and the signatures of the chair or vice chair of the 4-member canvassing board and the county clerk were the only things necessary to advance the certification to the state board of canvassers, Kinloch said. The state board certified the 2020 presidential election on November 23rd, 2020, solidifying Biden's victory in Michigan. During the November 17 call, Trump specifically told the canvassers they'd look terrible if they signed the certification after initially voting against it. Terrible. And if you look terrible, I look terrible, and look how people are treating me. Worse than any person. Worse than Lincoln. Worse than Kennedy. Like if you brought back all the dead presidents that were assassinated or attempted assassination on, and you put them all together, no one would be worse treated than me. I'm treated worse than all of them. All right. Chris Thomas, a lawyer who served as Michigan's election director for more than 3 decades, said the Republican canvassers in Wayne County had no legal reason to block the certification of the election. It's pretty unfortunate, Thomas said. The Republican leaders offered to give them something, legal protection for not doing their jobs. Offering something of value to a public official to not perform a required duty may raise legal issues for the person doing so. Fuck, man, just bury that at the tail end of this story. Yeah, that's kind of the thing, isn't it? Something about aid and comfort, especially when you fucking full well know that that there's no way you could possibly overturn it, even if every single case you had spotlighted turned out to be true, which none of them did. In Detroit, especially, none, fucking none. That if you offered to pay someone to do something to, it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the election anyways. But yeah, hilarious. And that's that. And then okay, that's the tail end of the article. Lordy, there are tapes. Let me see if I can find them. I'll need to put my headphones in if we're going to find them or whatever. And I just may say, excellent. Because if I do play audio, I'm going to need to hear it. Meanwhile, chat room, how you doing? You're the guest today. That's right. So, thoughts? Any rags? Any bones? Any rags today? Man, we got a lot of people conversating in here. Fake tapes, so unfair. Why are they faking the tapes? Why? Let's see. And I probably, what my guess is is it on Shitter? Has anybody posted the audio on Twitter? Let's see. Let's look at it. Trump audio. She might maybe pop it up. This is the, they playing, let's see. Yeah, Trump reportedly caught pressuring Michigan newly released audio. That's in the last word. See, nothing better. Bombshell audio of Trump. Yeah. Sorry. Pardon folks for minor marijuana possession. Yes. Trump apparently said this. Says he's heard the newly revealed stuff. Oh, wait. Is this it? J.D. Vance destroys a reporter who asks about Trump's poison blend. Okay, whatever. Audio recordings revealed. Let's see. I want to share with you.
Just coming out, saying that then President Trump is actually recorded on tape. And he is recorded on tape pressuring 2 Republican members of the Wayne. This is a phone tape. And he's, according to this report, quote, as this is Kronger exchange,
was the
much of this tape. Can you tell us what you hear Trump say?
What I heard listening to the audio of this conversation was the then president of the United States encouraging, pressuring, contending, arguing in favor of these 2 Republican county canvassers not signing the certification of the 2020 election for Wayne County.
By the way, Robert in our chat is saying federal pot charges only. You do realize those are the only charges he can actually pardon. I want to make that clear. That is it is, I guess, an unnecessary and obvious detail, but also like kind of undercuts these idea like he wouldn't. No, I'm not playing the video. I was just looking at one and playing the audio from it to see if it actually shows up. Maybe the beast has it. Wait, let's see. Nope, not in there. Hold on. Let's see. Media. Do this. Yeah. I don't see it in there. If I can't look at okay. Yeah, I've been searching too. I guess the other big story is let's see. Yeah, trying to looking, trying to find it. We'll hunt it down. If it's available, we'll find it by the end. I've been multi-modding and didn't hear what CSL, we're looking for the audio of the Detroit recording someplace. I just haven't been able to find it. Oh, and just a little inside politics right now. The pro DeSantis super PAC Never Back Down is backing down. I think they should. Is backing down all of its 2024 ad reservations in Iowa and New Hampshire. They've tracked 2.5 million in cancellations. They're just pulling their ads from Iowa and New Hampshire going into the next couple weeks because they figure whatever they've got, that's all they're going to get. And then they're going to move that money someplace else, hoping to try and find some other state where they can get, I don't know, more delegates. So they just back down. I'm just saying. It's just pretty funny. Funny how it always works that way. It just always works that way. Yes, DeSantis's campaign is broke. However, there's this where is it? This other report came out about Nikki Haley, who has apparently made here it is. Yeah, when she resigned from government in 2018, she got like $2.5 million. Now, everybody, here's the thing. We'll break this down. This is Washington Post is running this article about how in 2018, after she left office, she started making, the candidate's public policy positions, hawkish and pro-business, created well-paid private opportunities when she abruptly resigned from government in 2018. I got news for you. Being strictly pro-business while she's in office and sort of blanketly so, sort of inoculates her against the possibility that she's helping one industry over another, which is sort of the point. Yeah, she went to work for Boeing, but that's a state business, not surprising at all. Or that they would even hire her. The question is, did she help while she was there as governor? There's no way to be governor of South Carolina without helping Boeing, right? That's, of course you would. It employs, over 10,000 people in your state easily. And God knows the extent of the financial impact it has on the community. So who's voting Nikki? An increasing number of people, by the way, which is why she's getting some scrutiny. Bankers were foreclosing on her parents' lake house. They were having trouble tracking down the family. They tried the house itself on the shores of picturesque Lake Murray, as well as Haley's home in the suburb of Columbia. She was initially named as a defendant in the action. In vain, they went to Haley's workplace, headquarters of the U.S. mission in the United Nations in New York, denied access by UN security. A process server scrawled an affidavit filed in January 2018. The foreclosure action, initiated as Haley served in the highest echelons of government, illustrates the financial pressure she faced as her family's primary breadwinner during her last stint in public service, which ended when she abruptly quit government later that year and entered the private sector. In short order, she improved her financial position dramatically, making millions from private consulting, paid speeches, and spots on corporate boards. She quickly extricated herself from the Lake House proceedings, and in 2019 purchased a $2.4 million property on Kiowa Island, a gated community near Charleston with arched porticos, columns, balconies, stone balustrades. Her finances are under spotlight as she seeks to return to public life. Again, she was the governor of the state. She's a woman of color. There's 100 reasons why these folks, and I don't care. She's not going to be president. And the Republicans aren't going to vote for her. This is a fucking waste of ink. But again, paid speeches as I guess the highest recently serving anyways, woman of color in the Republican Party is going to be you're going to get a lot of money just being that. She was hired for PR purposes. Exactly. Paul Young in her chat. Yes, Republicans aren't going to vote for her. It's a dead story. But that's the reason she's getting, I guess, a lot more attention. She was paid $185,000 per speech, according to her candidate disclosure. She did a dozen between March 2022 and January 2023. Generally paid, means some were more and some was less, but it was Kiowa. Sorry, I kind of don't care, but I appreciate the fixing. Yeah, exactly like they're accusing Hunter of doing it. Let me ask you this: what do you think's worth more? A piece of artwork from the most publicized son of a president, I guess, since George W. Bush. That was handmade and is his actual physical artwork that you could hang up, or like a rich person go, this is from a period in American history where the president's son was, accused of all this stuff and he did other things and it was a major factor and all this shit, right? Having that painting for some people just to sit on it physically, it's a physical thing. And going, there it is. That's one of his paintings, right? Versus a speech from her that was probably 45 minutes long. Same general price point. Just saying. Sorry, let's flatten the curve entirely. 2 speeches, 2 Nikki Haley speeches. You've got money to spend. You're going to invest it. You want it to be worth something, not just now, but in the future. Do you buy? These are your only 2 choices. Nikki Haley will give you 2 speeches, or you could buy a Hunter Biden painting and hang it on your wall. And again, I think the artwork is actually decent. So every time they show it and they're like, look at this shit, I'm like, that's actually kind of cool. No, she does not paint while she speaks. Once she's done, and no recordings of it, by the way. You don't get to keep a magical recording of it. Yeah, I'm going with the painting. I'm going with everybody. Every Republican would take the painting. I'm dead serious. I'll bet you anything, the majority of people who bought a Hunter Biden painting for a lot of money are rich people who vote Republican who bought it and stored it someplace. Right. Okay. Just saying. It's fairly hilarious. Hold on. This is the whole thing. We go, oh yeah. So obviously, Trump's been paying for polling like crazy. He and his campaign, they're only spending money on 2 things. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Obviously, the recording is not public yet. Oh, I see. So they played some of it on MSNBC, but I don't know that was them. I think whatever. Anyways, no, I would argue that there's a bunch of Republicans who have bought those paintings as investments because you can drive up the value of it just by making him more of a story. It's like a pump and dump scheme with a stock that never goes down because the story stays with it. Yeah. So, hi. How you doing, Sue? Good to see you. So it's all trash. Trump fans furious at conservative outlet over surprising poll report. Donald Trump's allies and supporters are outraged that a conservative news outlet published a poll showing that Americans largely approve of him being removed from the primary ballot in Colorado. The New York Post, which is does no wrong, and was obviously their story about the laptop they never saw and data they were not allowed to verify that they tried to run in the month before an election. In October, there's a word that is associated often with rat fucking political shenanigans. October something other. It sounds like something that I don't know, Bugs Bunny would cook. Oh, you're wearing the same Nerd Halen shirt? Colonel Clink, thank you. Yes, tomorrow night at the Whiskey. If you're in the LA area or you know anybody in the LA area, send them to the Whiskey. It will be a good time. I don't want to bury the lead on that, but I would also like to say that as of tomorrow, Nerd Halen will be the one and only Van Halen cover band that does all three singers. And that I'm having to sing all these people, and I love it. But we are doing all three. We will have, now we only have one from the Sharon era, but it's there, the only ones, and I think that makes us. Yes, we are covering Gary. We're going to do Without You, and we may at some point add even another one, but we'll see. But I mean, come on. Yeah, Gary Sharon, who was in Extreme and is back in Extreme. He's Extreme and Extreme. Yeah. One album, Van Halen 3, and one single off of it that actually made it. So there you go. Yeah, singing Gary has got to be tough. Only because he sandpapers his voice. Sammy's notes are higher, but they're actually easier to sing. It's very weird. Did I come up with the idea for Nerd Halen? No, I did not. Yeah, we're doing More Than Nerds, actually, instead of More Than Words. But we'll get there. All right. No, not Harry Nilsson's Without You. Yeah. Roth or Hagar. We do both. I am from the Roth era. I love David Lee Roth, both with Van Halen and his solo stuff. You guys know me. I like egos. I like fun egos. I like people who like themselves. There we go. So, yeah. More Than Nerds. Ooh. All right. Anyways, can Joe Satriani pull off EVA? Yes, he can. Although it's, it's flavor, not capability. But yes, absolutely. All right. So there we go. New York Post reported on an online YouGov survey, which seems to show 54% of respondents either strongly or somewhat approve of the court's ruling, while 35% say either strongly or somewhat disapprove. That's not a lot. By the way, that's what you got there, that's the population difference between Democrats, Democrat-leaning independents, Republicans, and Republican-leaning independents. That's the number, 54 to 35%. That's why Republicans are flipping the fuck out that they're going to be a regional party forever. That's your real number. That's why there's always, that 35% overall base in the voting rolls that you always see that will support Trump no matter fucking what. That's them. That's it. Yeah. Good times. Trump ally Laura Loomer. Ally? All right. Whose content the former post almost there. No, the hell we do not. This is some more bullshit from Rupert Murdoch's New York Post. Yeah, that's Is there? I mean, we're almost out of popcorn. It's the end of 2023. I gotta say, we're gonna run out of caramel corn. We're now moving on from regular popcorn to like those giant caramel cluster balls of popcorn that we'll be eating like apples. All right. So, all right. Rupert Murdoch is on the record saying he wants to make Trump a non-person. You can't trust anything about Trump that comes out of this publication. It's all trash. New York compost. More like New York compost. Wait, are you saying that Rupert Murdoch wanted to post a bullshit made-up story about a fake laptop dropped off by some person who, if your vision sucks and you squint a little bit, looks vaguely like, I don't know, striking distance. Oh, that's the other one. Ah, thanks, Ali Osher. Yeah, in the poll that they put up as well, Nikki Haley's closer to Trump in the New Hampshire polls. Trump has been convicted of 0 insurrection crimes, so how can he be removed from the ballot? One user wrote in response report. Okay, dummy, you don't have to be convicted in this particular instance because he took an oath first. This is not general citizenry. Again, if there had been a January 6, 2017, and it had been exactly the same, no court would be able to remove this dumb fuck from any state wouldn't have been able to remove him from the ballot because he had not yet taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. After you take an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, the standards for your behavior, wait for it, get higher. You are held to a higher standard when you have taken an oath, shocking, I know, to protect and defend and support the Constitution. Yeah, once you've taken that oath, the standard for what you can do and how fucked you can get is higher. I don't know why anyone is not just nudge these motherfuckers and go, hi, just real quick. This wouldn't apply to like any Jan 6er even who hadn't been in the military or in a government position previously, because as long as you hadn't taken an oath, he could still run for president. I mean, you could be standing at January 6th. If you're standing next to a retired police officer or former comptroller or some shit, or some, lesser known deep state, Fibby or somebody else that was standing around and, that liked Trump and was there to back him, that, anybody who was a government worker who was there, and you're standing right next to him, you both fucking stomped the same fucking cop. You both spit on him. You both tried to gouge his fucking eyes out and get his gun away from him so you could shoot some of your fellow Americans to support Donald Trump. Two of you, right next to each other, doing the exact same shit. You could still run for president, but the other person couldn't. The person who has already taken the fucking oath can't run for president. That's how it fucking works. Now, probably the base problem, I guess, yeah, the base of the problem with Republicans is that they don't think the oath means anything. They don't think it, that the president, especially when he takes it, yeah, Antifa, yes, the Antifa people who were standing next to them, who, did the greatest method acting exercise in the history of the country. Sorry, you are correct. You are correct, sir. ABC is to not confirm the Detroit News report. The audio of the call has not yet been released. Gotcha. Okay. Excellent. You are correct, sir. So thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't have charged up them steps and attacked a police officer and all that kind of stuff because I backed the blue. But somebody next to me who looked vaguely like a fellow Trump supporter said, we should probably do this. And I was like, okay. And then the next thing I knew, I was taking a shit in the rotunda holding a Confederate flag, and the end of the flagpole had the blood of a police officer all over the end of it. It's just, you know what I mean? It was like he hypnotized me. I was like hypnotized. It's like MK Ultra, like they have a little spray or something. They got a spray. Oy. Right. All right. Typical MSM journalism. They're conveying the YouGov survey. They didn't hire it. They reported on it. Fucking stupid. Oh, God. Another MAGA account wrote, wow, the New York Post is going full on against Trump too. 2024 is going to be crazy, but it's only making him stronger. You can smell him all the way from here. Look at his polls. The Post is trash. Once we take America back, we'll do whatever we can be done to these institutions who've been bought by Pfizer and BlackRock. BlackRock is the new World Economic Forum, is the new smoke-filled room of people who think they should be running things, of which Trump thought he should be a member of. And Pfizer? Congratulations, Moderna. you're co-equal in your making mRNA vaccines, but somehow Moderna, because it has more syllables, I guess, doesn't catch any shit from the maggot crowd because Pfizer sounds like Pfizer. Pfizer. You can just say Pfizer. I see it all the time on them rusty trombone thumbnails. He always says Pfizer. Pfizer. Meanwhile, Moderna's like, phew, we made the exact same shit with some slight modifications, and somehow they think those guys run the fucking world. Does that make any goddamn sense? Yes, Pfizer and BlackRock attorneys laws. Pfizer. If you run them together, if you squint with your ears, Pfizer and Pfizer sound alike. I don't know if you've noticed. It's probably some witchcraft word. Pfizer. They probably all stand around a big fire, chucking babies on it after they've drained their juices out of their spine and drink it and eat their livers, like Roseanne said. And they all go, Pfizer. It's like a witchcraft word. Pfizer. Like Michael Jackson when he'd say, Shimon, which is like a magic word that guarantees a hit and no one else can say it. He claimed that word so no one else could say it. I wouldn't read these maggot comments as Ficus. It would do wrong by Ficus. He's smarter than the average maggot. I'm just saying. Yeah, in general. Hey, yeah, cut me some fucking slack there, man. I know a thing or two about a goddamn thing or two, but Pfizer and BlackRock? You dumb motherfucker. Pfizer and BlackRock don't run the goddamn world. The ever-loving shit are you talking about, Pfizer and BlackRock? The world is run by Peabody Coal and Kellogg, who is a fucking secret Amish, who wanted to lower sperm counts by getting us to eat Weetabiscuit. Feel free to at me, Pfizer and BlackRock. Shut the fuck up. So, yeah. Soros runs the world. Well, he does it for free because I'm going to... Oh, no, he didn't. Hold on one second. Really? Oh, I see. Yeah, this is the Joe.
Well, there's people that voted for Biden that are doing
Yeah, I'm one of them
it now.
Yeah.
They're like, what did I do?
Right.
Like,
No, they're not.
what did I choose? Like, how?
No, they're not. And by the way, there might be some, and those would be Jew-hating campus radicals, like a small group of Jew-hating campus radicals, who somehow, by the way, I guess, think that Trump is going to have a better rule of engagement for Gaza and the West Bank. You do realize he gave Israel, he recognized the Golan Heights, which is the next step to basically saying, they're not settlements, that's just the land. Go ahead.
How is this guy?
Yeah, you just can't listen to an interview or he's saying some of the stuff he says that just makes no sense at all. It's like you can't listen to those interviews and feel like
what?
You made a good decision. I don't know how you
Did
could.
you hear what he said like yesterday or a couple days ago?
Mm-mm.
He was talking about the Revolutionary War. He's like, one of the reasons why we lost the Revolutionary War, one of the problems with the Revolutionary War was they didn't have enough airports.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Okay, first of all, that's not even a good representation of the Trump quote.
I saw that.
Have
Like,
you seen
what
that?
the hell?
Like, pull him.
It's
Imagine
crazy.
If you
Imagine if Trump said something that fucking dumb.
had any other job and you were talking like that,
Yeah.
they would go, hey, you're done.
If you talk,
Dude, you're doing it. What are you? Hashtag pull Joe Rogan. Hashtag pull Joe Rogan, I guess. Motherfucker, you just said You watched a video of him like yesterday saying something about that we needed more airports during the Revolutionary War, and you're misquoting something that happened years ago that you just saw yesterday, and you're attributing it to an entirely different person and inverting the statement.
Talk like that to a doctor at your medical exam to fight, they'd be like, okay, like obviously you're not fighting. You would also, here's 8 weeks of being helped out by a professional, like
right. You might not ever do anything.
Oh, is he watching the Biden joke about it? Is that what he thinks? Right. You remember how Trump was saying, I was doing this thing where I'm walking around like Joe Biden, and they put it on because the Lincoln Project showed the video of him leaning over or whatever and used it against him. And he was like, that I was making fun of Biden. Right. And he got all mad. Rogan is doing the exact same thing to Biden in this.
No, it's one of the wildest things ever.
It's insane.
Well, it's wild.
The media gaslighting you to protect. It's just people are so afraid of Trump being in office.
By the way, this would be Joe Rogan not getting a joke that's clearly based on something that actually happened, something Trump actually said.
And Republicans being in office.
A few moments later.
Hanging out with the guy, I'm like, man.
Well, it's just the media narrative. I mean, so many people were fed this lie that the Russia collusion.
Yeah.
Was this the video you're talking about?
Let me see what this one says. I don't think it is.
What? By the way, the same stable genius that said the biggest problem we had in the Revolutionary War is we didn't have enough airports.
The same stable genius. He means Trump.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's it.
Whoa.
Right,
what?
Just for the record.
Is that fake?
It's not fake, but he was referencing Trump saying that. Here's what Trump saying it in 2019.
Oh, see, that was during the period where I was walking around with Trump's balls in my lap all the time, cradling them like a kitten I had found. And I totally blew off. I threw my judgment out the fucking window.
Trump said something about that. He didn't say Jesus. He said a stable genius, and that's where the transcription.
Let me hear what it says. What did he say?
In June of 1775, the Continental Congress created a unified army out of the revolutionary forces encamped around Boston and New York, and named after the great George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware, and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. Jesus Christ, man. How far behind are you that you haven't seen that shit? Seriously. Like that's old fucking news.
So he fucked up.
Yeah, he fucked up. He fucked up. He said they took over the airports. They did everything they had to do. Fucking airplanes hadn't been invented yet, you dumb shit. He fucked up. You fucked up, Joe. You fucked up. Now, does he apologizes, I'm sure.
Yeah, he did. But I feel like that's you can tell too. It sounds like a little different. He's like, you could tell he like messed up his words, but yeah, he was just.
Yeah, he just messed up his words. That's what it was. He messed up his words. If Biden has had a lifelong stutter, isn't messing up his words. He's got dementia. Trump thinking there's fucking airports and saying they took over the airports. They did whatever they had to do. Here, I'll just lay it here. You think Trump knows what a fucking rampart is? And if he says fucking 1 Adam 12, or makes a 1 Adam 12 reference, 1 Adam 12, this is a rampart, that didn't count. No. He doesn't know, like, that's why his brain filled in airport with Rampart, because what's the fucking difference? What an asshole. And here's the thing. Look, if you mix up a reference or people do it all the time, you mishear something or whatever, it's fine. I'm talking about Joe. If you do that, that's fine. But when you do it in the process of dunking on somebody just to be a dick for no particular reason, you're just bringing it up. He's just quoting all this. Like, he's saying the same shit Glenn Beck is saying now. Basically, he's just like a shorn Glenn Beck at this point. He's repeating the same. We've watched the Glenn Beck clips. It's the same shit. Oh, I know all these Democrats, and they regret it. They all, what did I do? Bullshit. So you're in the middle of it, though, of telling that story. I know all these people, they regret it. You know why they regret it? Did you see what he said yesterday? When he was making a joke about Trump that I don't get the reference to because I was too busy cradling Trump's balls. Right.
I don't know.
To go over the airports.
Well, that's the thing about media these days. It's like,
right.
You got to look into it.
What? Look into what? Media, you got to look into it. No, you got to fucking look into it. You got to look into it. Jamie, put up that video. Put up the video about play the video of me making fun of people that do exactly what I just did and calling them stupid because they won't vote for Trump because he doesn't say stupid shit. And then play the clip right after where he says the stupid shit I say he didn't say. Can you do that? Oh, you already did. Cool. Oh, we have awesome news? Great. I'm glad. Good Lord. You get a Rampart and you get a Rampart. Oh, God. It's just so fucking telling. It is so... Wow, we've already blazed through the first hour. Like, this show has raged by, and I haven't even gotten to the part where I was going to upset everybody. Okay, we'll go to... We did the... we will... Later on this afternoon, if they release some of the audio, we'll play it on the afternoon show. Wish us luck in finding that. I'm sure there's some variation of it in there. Yeah. See. Okay, that's the... Yeah, Secret Service is looking into John Schneider because he thinks Jesus would want Biden hanged for not using the Anglicization of his first name in his Christmas address, saying the Son of God instead of Jesus. By the way, Trump you says Jesus all the time, says Christ all the time, doesn't pray, doesn't go to church, thinks any of the essences of Christian behavior are a sucker's game, but whatever. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, hung not crucified. I guess he's modernizing it a little bit. I think the word he's looking for is lynched, which is I'm just saying it's a dangerous territory for a dude who in a show that I liked when I was growing up, his car had a Confederate flag on it. I'm just saying you might have to tiptoe a little more than usual. Yeah. Just thinking, just noticing that. Yeah, people are hanged. Oh, people are hanged. Pictures are hung. Speak for yourself. So stupid. Well, again, we know around here that even the phrase C-list actor isn't a slam, because you have to understand these folks think that A-list actors drink the juice of baby spines. So they call me a C-lister, a D-lister all the time, and I'm like, I take it as a compliment from you, considering you think that the Hollywood elite, that would mean I am not in the Hollywood elite. That's essentially, that I can't get into the elite parties. That's what the C and the D list are. It's a reference to where you are on the list. If the party's not full, we get down to the C-listers, and then you can let them in, and maybe the D-listers, right? That is the entire fucking point. Right? But apparently at those parties, at the elite A-list parties, that's where you, I guess, eat babies. And apparently I can't get into, I don't make the list on the baby eating party, probably because I would disrupt the activities of the evening, no doubt. Again, if I'm ever in a party like that, I will only be there because I have brought a cinder block to deal with the people who arrange the party and are adult participants in it. That's what cinder blocks are for. Never mind. Anyways, point is, isn't C-list a compliment when it comes from those folks? Just saying. From a TV show called Emergency, 70s TV shows, grew up on it, lunchboxes, yes. Oh, you mean the One Adam 12 and Rampart? Yes. Let's see. Yeah, so the other story here, I'll let's get to some real stories because I'm going to run out of. Literally, we're going to run out of time. We end up talking about that part of it, and also more love to Andrea this morning. We're just going to send out more love just while we're at it. Just going to everybody send a. Can I get some hearts in the chat? Yep. Aw, thanks, Jesse. I'm glad I'm an A-lister in your book. But you don't throw baby eating parties, so I'm fine with being on the A-list for your parties. That's good. Yeah. So. And by the way, if I'm ever in town doing stand-up or something, feel free to invite me to a party if you're throwing it. Hey, we're having a birthday party. Something like that. Feel free to invite me. I might not be able to be there because I'm a lunatic and always busy, but I will make an effort, especially if you're a Patreon subscriber. Like, okay, I can at least come over and bring here's a fruitcake. Sorry. Okay, gotta go. Bye. There you go. There's some love for Andrea. Come to Spokane. We'll get there. I think we're coming for Sexy Liberal. Yeah. And a couple of things. Okay, this is okay. This is a fairly funny one. Okay. The Republicans are unable to pass any immigration legislation because they have too many crazy people who want like 50 cows mounted on the wall in their caucus, or they want a slush fund for border states instead of actually spending it directly, which is really the big problem. So on Thursday, Mike Johnson sent a letter to Joe Biden asking him to use an executive order. He goes, I urge you to immediately take executive action available to you under existing immigration law to stem the record tide of illegal immigration. Johnson, which, by the way, you can't stem the tide. You can, first of all, the president can only deal with actual immigration, which is processing people who are not illegal, they're asylum seekers, versus the people who are being, who are illegally coming in, who don't qualify, or economic migrants or what have you, who need to be sent home or whatever. That's the process of this. The president doesn't have that power. Congress does. And so there is no, and also stemming the record tide means how the fuck do you do that? You know how he could do it? This is the only way the president could use his executive order to stem the tide. He would have to order all discretionary funds in the budget that he has control over for all different programs, including military families and all that kind of stuff, and spend that money on Guatemala and Honduras and all these states. Give them money to literally pay them to repatriate people who are walking through Mexico. You can't stem the tide. The tide is at the shore. You can only control the shore. Yeah, I thought executive orders were federal tyranny. Yeah, they are until they aren't. He demanded Biden return to the policy back to Trump's stuff, which is, again, Title 42 is why there's an entire business set up on the border to get people through. By the way, there will be a trend down from the current wave because everybody who tries to cross won't be allowed to cross again. If you try twice and you're caught, you you lose the chance of becoming a citizen ever, and so do members of your immediate family under Title 9 or Title 8, I think. Is that Title 8, I think. And anyways, so people don't try again. If they get caught, they go, fuck, and they try to do another route. They try it legally, or they just go home. During Title 42, you could try as many times as you want, and there were no mark on your record. They just dumped you back out. Return to Mexico. They just popped you back. They didn't even check who you were. They didn't check your asylum. They didn't check anything. So since they weren't checking for a real asylum claims, everybody could claim I was denied because of an asylum claim. So there's this basic generalized order under Title 42 that it can't be used against you if you cross. So the cartels set up an industry. Hey, you can go across as many times as you want. Matter of fact, you get sent across with this shit. They'll kick you right back out. We'll give you another package. If you make it through 3 times and you carry 3 packages, we'll hook you up with somebody inside the country that'll act as your sponsor or something, because we have a network, which maybe they do, maybe they don't, but that's what they promised. Yeah. So, which is hilarious. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said Thursday, when asked about the Speaker's letter, she goes, I mean, look, we asked for more Border Patrol, right? And you got Republicans in Congress, who, especially in the House, who want to cut back. They actually want to do the opposite of what the president is trying to do. And so, look, the president has done everything he can right on his own. Yeah, the infrastructure bill, the President's 22 bills, their biggest success. Calling it quits early, right? Okay, yeah. So that's the generalized thing. But hey, there's Mike Johnson's still in there. Still got his job doing, by the way, the exact same thing that McCarthy was doing. There is zero difference between McCarthy and this dickhead. Like, I can't find a single thing. Yeah. Other than him being faux religious more. That, I guess that is the only thing that protects him. His like veneer of Christianity is the only thing that's protecting him. That's what I think. I don't know why the chat just like will freeze up at one point. Meow. Look at that. Johnson has Jesus on his shoulder. Well, that's exactly. Yeah. There is nothing on a material level that's any different between the two of them. Speaking voice and overt versus baseline Christianity that they either pretend to have or something. Like it, because whether his values are real and he's just a deluded weirdo, or whether it's he's just a poser who knows this is the way to, lift yourself up in current Republican politics as basically like a wink and a nod QAnon, right? I can't tell. Nobody can see into his heart as far as this, but on a material level, it doesn't fucking matter. There's zero, honest to God, there is no material difference between him and McCarthy. All that bullshit they went through for fucking nothing. And you can argue that McCarthy, that McCarthy didn't get rolled. So they, the 2 minibuses, they're not going to do an omnibus, but they're going to do 2 minibuses, which is, again, easy. That they're going to vote on in January and February. What's the fucking difference? What is it? They split the Republican priorities versus the Democratic priorities into both bills almost equally, right? So if you vote, it's not like I like package A and I hate everything in package B, so I can vote for package A and kill the other one, which is what the Republicans were trying to do. And Mike Johnson is so fucking stupid, he didn't realize that they voted on the draft version, which evenly peppers the priorities of both parties in both of the buses, right? The minibuses, the short buses, right? He didn't realize that. He thought they were doing the Republican priority bill and the Democratic priority bill, and they were going to we'll fuck them up. Well, that's this. Now, here's the thing. Even if they tried that, even if they're capable of doing that, the A, minibus and the B minibus, the Republican priorities and the Democratic priorities. Let's say they vote on the first one and they send it to the Senate for passage, and then they're like, we're going to vote on the other one later. The Senate is not going to pass the A one until they vote on the B one, because the Democrats control the Senate and they're not going to get rolled like this. It's just dumb. Like, nobody, it wouldn't even worked in the first place. But he didn't have a chance to find the fuck out because they voted on the draft version of it. Again, evenly, both priorities. So everybody's got something to vote for that they like or don't like. and they're just going to have to suck it up on some things, which is easier for Democrats to do than it is for Republicans. Republicans are, again, as the party of democracy, recognize you don't get everything you want. And we definitely have some, like TYT Democrats in there. There's 3 or 4 of them. And they do this whole thing, if we don't get everything, nobody gets anything, talk. But when it comes to actually voting, most of them go, yeah, I'm not going to fuck my constituents I'm not going to have my constituents eat fucking cat food because, some Justice Dem is screaming in my ear about their priorities. Doesn't work that way. You can't act like a dictator when you don't have anywhere close to a mandate majority, period. So, anyways, pretty goofy, pretty hilarious. Yes, that is exactly why Nancy Pelosi was smart. Well spotted. Yes, Courtney. The other big story is, of course, Biden has pardoned some marijuana charges overall and given, let's see, go to the articles on this. Biden pardoned some marijuana charges, gives clemency to 11 nonviolent drug offenders. President Joe Biden announced Friday he was granting clemency to nearly a dozen people who've been serving long prison sentences for nonviolent drug offenses. The president also announced he was signing a proclamation to pardon certain marijuana offenses, building on action he took back in 2022 to pardon thousands of Americans who had been convicted of simple marijuana possession. And again, this is the thing. A good portion of the people that are in state penitentiaries, not jail, but state penitentiaries or federal penitentiaries, who have simple marijuana possession on their record, is in a stack of 6 other charges. It's not. It wasn't just that got them in jail. They had a gun. They'd been on probation for something else, and they had marijuana possession on them. That charge will be dropped, but the gun and the domestic violence and the kidnapping charges and all that stays, right? So the idea that Republicans will go, he's letting all these violent people out on the street. It's like, no, he's just squashing effectively the dumb part of the charges against them so that other people in the future won't get busted on that single thing. Right. All pot charges are federal crimes, so wouldn't anyone just have who had just pot charges be like, oh, no, they're not all federal crimes. There's federally there, it is understood that it's a crime to go across state lines with it. But certain states have legalized it. The federal government doesn't recognize it, but it doesn't send people in to override the legal system in the state. So it did fall in the states' rights area. So like when they open dispensaries or whatever, the federal government wasn't obligated to raid them. Yeah, and so if you were charged by a state that makes it illegal, he can't do anything about it. Yeah, simple possession isn't federal, like I said, but a lot of times it's tacked on to 5 other things, and the reason is because you have a really awful person, like somebody like convicted of multiple sexual assaults and all kinds of other shit, and you're like, okay, we've got him dead to rights on these 2 charges. These other 3. We have witnesses and statements and that kind of stuff, but the witnesses could be intimidated and we're worried about this. And so every possible thing, what did this fucker have on him at the time? Everything if we could tack another 6 months onto this motherfucker's sentence, we're going to use it because he's a dangerous person. He's responsible for a lot of awful in the world. So let's tack that on. The people who are in jail specifically for a single nonviolent drug charge is an incredibly small percentage. And again, most of them are in jail, not in prison. So again, that's why when they look at it, everybody's like, he's done this for all the charges. And it's 11 people in a country. And again, the pardons for some marijuana charges, this is overall. The charges go away. That's why it says charges. This is, again, you're talking about the legal system. This is, this is very important. Nonviolent drug offenses, again, that does not include selling narcotics, hard drugs, opiates, that kind of shit. Because in my opinion, that's not nonviolent. especially if, if you know you're selling to an addict, that's an act of violence on that person. I mean, I know we're kind of splitting hairs about the meaning of the word, but on a moral sense, that's an act of violence. It's just like if somebody knew somebody was drunk and they were going to drive home and a bartender continued to serve them, right? And we understand that the bartender and the bar are culpable in that because they knew the person was intoxicated. It was obvious they were intoxicated, and yet they continued to serve them, and they walked out the door, right? They watched them get in their car and didn't do shit. We understand that's wrong. Same thing is true. Same thing is true. It is about the extremity of the drug and the depth of the damage that it does. Tobacco, no, because not everybody who smokes gets cancer. It's variable. There's too many variables in that. Nobody who can't stand up can leave a bar and drive a car and not do some kind of damage to somebody is the idea, right? Unless the bar's in the middle of a field and the only other building is their house and there's just a light in the distance and it doesn't matter how much they fucking I'm gonna get there eventually, all right. So that's why the number, when people look at these, why a lot of it is so small, because even though, like the woman that I'm blitzing on her name, and I'm sure somebody in the chat knows it, the woman that Trump with Kim Kardashian, he released her, and she was there was like, I'm releasing this nonviolent drug offender from Georgia, right? That, she was trafficking drugs and she had this drug business, and then he released her, right? And that was the big thing. She had hitmen working for her. For fuck's sake. Yeah, Alice Johnson. That's right. Thank you, Marcia. You're like, yeah. So the guys that she employed who would kill rivals and other stuff, like other people, in sort of the turf disputes that she had, they're all still in jail. Which is it's a little closer to like a woman who hires somebody to kill her husband, and the guy who pulled the trigger or beat him to death or whatever the fuck is still in jail, but she got out early. It's sort of the equivalent of that. You're not talking about things you know nothing about. How? Oh, okay. I know something about that. Which part? Feel free. Money is a way to control people? No, it isn't. Money is hold on. I want to explore that a little bit. Money is a way to control people. No. Money is a coupon for whatever you want it to be. You can purchase whatever you want with that money. It's not a GameStop card. It's not an EBT card that limits what you can purchase with it. In a capitalist system, yes, you can control people. Well, you can, but not with money. Because if you have money, you can spend it however you would like. Try having no money? Right, exactly. I get where you're going, that control of the money system itself by certain people is an attempt to control that and make sure that they win and other people lose. But that's a competitive aspect of the money supply, not the very existence itself. Look, you can't trade directly. If you grow something or you have a trade and you're like, hey, I wash windows, and somebody goes, oh, it's interesting, I live in a house with no windows, but you want what they got. They have chickens and they have eggs, and you need eggs, and you wash windows for a living. You're like, hey, I'll wash your windows for some eggs. And they're like, I don't have any windows. You're just out of luck. That's that. But if both of you agree on substantively on the idea of money, I can wash windows somewhere else, and then I can get paid by them, and then I can take that money and buy some eggs. And you can take that money from the eggs and get your fucking walls polished. I don't know what the fuck you would do with it, right? Money is a generic exchange point. You can't. If you take away their money, that's the ultimate control. If they have no money to begin with. Yeah, but that's not controlling people with money. And ultimately, in a well-regulated, market-based system, again, capitalism is an old fucking word for what this is. I'll wash your chickens. You disgust me, Betsy. That's horrifying. Influence and control are different. Yes, you can certainly influence people. That doesn't mean it'll work. That's the whole rules of the barter system. Yeah, but the problem with the barter system is you run dry pretty fucking quick. We used to have that, and that's what kept us in like baseline tribes that couldn't interact with anybody else. Holy shit. There was a point in the Middle East where even if you had livestock and you could trade livestock to somebody else, first of all, it was the kind of livestock they liked, but you thought was evil, i.e. pigs, for example, you didn't have what they wanted and you were shit out of luck. It also got to the point where, depending on if it's kosher or halal or any of these other rules, which is just the early health department, quite frankly, if it wasn't killed your way, you couldn't eat it. So the exchange rate dies there. You're not saying what you think you're saying? Yeah. I don't think they're saying what they think I'm saying. I don't know. I have a few windows if you need them. Okay. I'll buy that for $1. Yeah. Yeah, in the Mideast, they used salt as currency at one point. And then you know what happened? Somebody went, I'd rather have some pepper. Money is get one over the next guy and F them. No, it isn't. Money is an exchange point. You might believe that like the economic politics of Wall Street are that. Money just means you can't carry a fucking sandwich in your pocket all day, but you can carry $5 and you can buy a sandwich once you get there. That's all it meant. Money itself freed people from having to farm as serfs for land and sustenance. Because if they paid you, you could work and then save up what you want and went, fuck this, I'm going to go over here and start my own farm. But if they let you live and work the land and eat a little bit of what you had and give the rest of it up the chain, you couldn't free yourself from it. Right? And it goes back, well, yeah, trading pelts was the same way because pelts became representative of something. But what happens when nobody wants a fucking pelt? That's why. That's why you need, a generic thing. That's why it's a paper representative of worth. And, a lot of people have talked about, money's the value of your time. That's another way of doing it, or the effort you have put forth, right? And by the way, and some people like talking about the barter system. The barter system exists even alongside money anyways. You do not have to eliminate barter between people to have a money supply. Both those can exist. But if you only have the barter system, the limitations of your ability to get the things you would need to live are predicated only on your material worth in the world. It's pretty barbaric. And the example I would give is if the guy with the food, if the only thing, like, he could just eat his fucking food. He doesn't have to give it out if he doesn't want to. And if he gives it out and he keeps giving it out, people just keep coming for his food, right? That kind of stuff. Read Maslow. I have. No. Secondly, if the only thing that guy needs is rolling a rock up the hill, the people who roll up the rock up the hill can get the food. If you can't roll the rock up the hill, you're not eating. But if you can, if it's task barter and you're physically incapable, you're dead. But if you could bring other worth, I can't roll up those rocks, but I can organize how they should be stacked. I can do all the measurements of what you'd need to put them together. Like, that's where my talent is. Okay, I'll give you some food for that. But that's an agreement. That barter has to exist. You got to convince him first. You might have starved to death in the first place. So, dollar used to be linked to silver and gold. Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything because that's actually the gold. There's only enough gold in the world to fit in, I think, one Olympic swimming pool, maybe two. America reeks of shame. You're kidding, right? By the way, I don't know. Are you in America, David? David? You can move to another country if you want to refuse to pay your taxes. If everyone else recognizes your monetary taxation system, your choice is to find a country that has no systems. Right. Everyone knows that the more money you have, the more blessed you are. No. It's called socialism plus. Okay. First of all, no, it isn't. Everything you regard as socialism that we have in the United States, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, any of those things, the VA, all that kind of stuff, which that's all just the result of democratic taxation. It is all born out of taxation with representation. Every other society, for as long as human beings have had fucking functioning villages and cities, had roads and bridges and all that shit, and somebody ordered people to make it. They said, the king said, I want a bridge over that river, and I want you guys to be soldiers, and I want this road for trade and all that shit. You get it? Like that, he got to order it. They still had all that shit, bridges, and they had infrastructure, but you didn't have a say. If the king wanted to share the wealth of the country with his buddies, then he would. But you didn't have any say in who those fucking people were. In a democratic society, you do. Kings would tax people, and they would pay for infrastructure and all kinds of stuff. You just didn't have a say. Once society has a say, then we all determine that we want to provide for the least among us and all that kind of stuff. And that's not what socialism is. It sounds like it because socialism and social security and social and people are social and humans are social and blah, 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 blah. But the theory, and again, socialism, like communism, have weakened as words over time, but it's like Republicans don't consider themselves, until you pin them down, to be anti-democratic and the party of the electoral college. But it's exactly what they are. It's the raison d'etre of the Republican Party. It's the essence of it. They are territorial. The Republicans believe in their, as their baseline charter, that land ownership is what makes you more important than one-to-one humans. And Democrats, at their base, even with all their early failures pre the Dixiecrats leaving and all that shit, believe one person, one vote, and everybody gets a say. There's not democratic socialism. There are people who call themselves democratic socialists who are usurping the word democratic for socialism. And it's not the same thing. It's just taxation with representation. That's all it is. So what is Sweden? Sweden's a monarchy with a parliamentary system, and they are capitalist. Sweden is a capitalist system. They just have a social safety net. But again, social safety net and socialism aren't the same thing. And again, socialism is very specific. The difference is, the closer thing is probably the NHS in England. The idea that they have, the NHS has state hospitals, right? The problem is you can go other places. Socialism is there are only state hospitals. There are no external ones. There are no private hospitals. There are only the public ones. Yeah. Swede here. Yes. Swedes are not socialists. Yeah, socialism is when the government runs one or more entire sectors, right? And any sector you say is socialist, they have to run the entire thing. And again, we get back to money. So what's the difference? How is Social Security not socialist? I'll tell you exactly how. And this goes back to the whole thing about money. I'll tell you why. Because Social Security does not send you to the Social Security camp to live and go to the Social Security hospital, right? That's not how it works. You get money from Social Security, and you can spend it how you like. And even when you get Medicare and Medicaid, or you can go to doctors that take Medicare and Medicaid payments, but which limits them to somewhat, but they are not government employees. VA is closest to it, but it's an internal organization. We still have voted that our soldiers, because they are in harm's way and have specific needs, both post-traumatic and physical, and damage from the kind of work that they do, that we provide them with a specific subset of healthcare for them as part of their service. It is it is supplied by the taxpayer by choice. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times this is just a pissing contest about what the words mean, and people are trying to salvage the word socialist because they think it's a counter to capitalism, or even, communism as a counterbalance to the idea of capitalism, when all three words are archaic and do not describe the economics of modern time. Does socialism preclude democracy? No. No. You're thinking of some sort of like idea of tribalism, where tribes took care of their own or whatever, because if the warriors went out and hunted, they brought everything back and they got to eat, and everybody got to share in the spoils of the hunt. But the hunters ate first because they had to do the hunt again. So not quite an even kick, right? Our relatives, I know they're bringing that up as an argument. Yeah, maggots say we're not a democracy. Exactly. Republicans, that's specific to their charter. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And a lot of the smaller places that use what they would call like, soc dem or socialist systems, the countries that do it are smaller subsets of, populations too. And there's a lot more racial homogeny. That's the other thing. Like, thanks Sweden for Volvos. Yes, thanks to Volvos being so safe, fewer people have to go into the healthcare system. So in many ways, we're being helped by them. Yes, they're right. Maggots believe in democracy. I see. Yes. Yeah, we'll get to the. Do I have any? Oh, Jesus Christ! It's 11 already, and I start a giant conversation about the philosophy behind shit. Wouldn't you know it? Hold on. I'm going to start a fire, and then I'm going to bug out. Watch this. Let's see. History. There we go. Where is it? So earlier this morning, I was doing some reading. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you an example of what. So there have been a lot of overlays. Money's a very long conversation, but it's pretty simple. It is an agreed upon, I guess, material or immaterial system of exchange. That's all it is. And there's a lot of moving parts, but ultimately that's it. So just you can have this, so you don't have to have everything immediately, and therefore it allows you to have some level of non-hunger-based impulse control as a human being. You can save up your effort for later, which was like from the institution of it, especially when it became international or intertribal, where it would go, across giant continents, opened up the world to a broader exchange between human beings, period. That would not have existed if you guys use shells, and I don't need any fucking shells, but it's our money. We just pretend it's something else. Well, yeah, we use those to scrape our ass instead of paper or whatever. So we don't need, we got plenty. We got stacks of that shit over here. It doesn't have any meaning. What about gold? We sit on a bunch of gold. Look at this guy's outfit. Our king is covered in gold. We don't give a rat's ass. What do you need? Pomegranates, actually. What? Yeah, he just loves them. So yeah, the king will give you anything if you just give him a fucking pomegranate. It's the weirdest thing. I don't get it. He's talked for ages about pomegranate seeds being his primary method of exchange. Why? Because he just likes them. Do the rest of the people like them? We don't really have a choice. We eat pomegranates for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, pomegranate soup, pomegranate gravy on everything. We eat fried pomegranate and pomegranate sauce, pomegranate ball soup when we get sick. That's all we got. Oh, that's weird, because our king fucking hates pomegranates. Really? Yeah, he says they get caught and see there's too much work for too little. Well, that's our king likes the work of it. So, anyways, we got a shit ton of pomegranate seeds because that's all we do. We're just up to our ass. We can't even plant them. Here they are. Is there something we could maybe come up with that both of us agree isn't pomegranate seeds, isn't gold, and isn't that in between all these things, we can just kind of, if we need anything else, we can use. Yeah, but that would just be a way to control people. See where I'm going? All right. So one of the weirdest things about in the last little bit about the language on college campuses about like people being, pro-Palestinian or, and mixing pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, anti-Israel, anti-Zionism, anti-Semitic, like all the wash of this thing. Because you got big crowds of the educated about it who have a very complex view of the idea that are mixed in there and go, we need a two-state solution. And that's why they're standing there with a Palestinian group or Palestinian flag or whatever, because they support the idea of a two-state solution. And they think they're overwhelmed by the stories they're hearing, and that's why they showed up. And then you have some people who are dumb and think Israel's apartheid state and it's a genocide and all the words they've heard, but they don't dig any deeper or go below it at all. And they just kind of, it's terrible. And also, I'm not a big fan of Jews, so I don't need much. And then I guess the third of the group would be the people who know full well that what they mean by, from the river to the sea is eliminating all the Jews in the area, right? Just no Jews. Like basically, what would be the difference between Israel now, the land, how it's run, and when you guys take over? Well, it'd be the same except no Jews. Oh, okay, that's fantastic. Are there Arabs in office and with rights in Israel, or is it all just Jews? Oh no, there's some Arabs or whatever. So those Arabs are fine. You're just not. I see. So that's the issue, right? Okay. So this is the whole mix of conversations. I understand. Okay. And there's been a weird component. Yeah. So I'm on this afternoon. There's been a weird component because of the People's Front splitters, the People's Front of Judea, which was a reference, by the way, in Holy Grail or in Life of Brian, to what was going on with the PLO and the Palestinian Authority and all that kind of stuff back in the day, was these, variant splinter groups, all basically, only thing they agree on is if we can get the Jews out of here, period, we're good. I don't want the Palestinians in my country, but I don't want the Jews there. So as long as they're there fighting with them, I got their back. And by the way, they're back. If they turn around and start facing me, I'm going to fucking kill them, which is exactly what the Lebanese did, which is exactly what the Jordanians did, right? Islamophobia is anti-Semitic. Yeah, because the idea is that everybody in that area is Semite, right? Which is the same thing of saying like all Israelis are Palestinians, not all Palestinians are Israelis. The difference is that the people who identify as Palestinians now don't consider Israelis Palestinians anymore because they're Jews, so they want them killed. It's a bit of a rough spot. Also, depending on, if you look at the people there, what happens after? If, let's say, river to the sea, Israel is no longer a country, the people who recognize themselves as Palestinians run the area, what happens to the people there? Is there democracy? Are there equal rights? Do women have rights? Do gays have rights? That's got to be a question. When you're talking about even the two-state solution part of it, that's part of a conversation. It's important. We talked about the tapes. There's tapes of Trump. We're going to have them later on today if they release them. But Trump was recorded again trying to throw the election. Welcome to Earth. Choose your struggle. Exactly. And I would argue, understand that this is a very complex issue, which should be discussed in a level-headed way. But you can't just jettison reality, right? Does communist, Marxist, socialist actually exist? Well, that's the thing. Okay, so there's a weird alignment, which I find particularly odd. And it's been brought up around the Queers for Palestine thing because it kind of stands out. Because in mass, Palestinian Arabs and Arabs in general, not the friendliest to the LGBTQ community. I think we can all agree on that in general. Here, Arabs in the United States, people of Arab descent or Muslims in the United States, pretty on par with, in my experience, right? In the United States, certainly. And in most of the West, I think not, obviously they have issues with them in certain areas in Paris and London. There's been all these talks about these kind of grouped together areas where they want Sharia law and stuff. And that means women way back of the bus and gay people being chucked off of roofs. That's just That's where this ends up. That's just true. I mean, you walk around any of those places, look at interviews of people walking around any of those places, and eventually that's where you'll get to. Okay. So, the Free Palestine, from the river to the sea, no more Israel crowd either don't know that, and I think a lot of them have had their empathy weaponized. So, maybe they don't. But if they do know it, then they're cool with it, which is very fucking weird, especially if you're considering yourself a lefty or a socialist, right? It's one thing if the right doesn't care about that. If they're Christian fundamentalists believe in this shit, who cares, right? That's who they are, right? They've said so. If you're a Jewish lesbian, you're in for a rough couple of days in the single state version of this. Does that make sense? Also, does anybody debate that in the chat room? I'm really curious. Does anybody in the chat disagree with the fact that if the Arabs that identify as Palestinians were to take over, Israel's gone, it is one Palestinian state for the people, whatever, that it would be, does anybody believe it would be a democracy with equal rights, women's rights, gay rights, any of that stuff? Anybody? Honestly, I'm curious. I would love to see anybody who actually thinks there's a version of that it happens anywhere. Because right now, again, there are Arabs in the Israeli parliament. There's Arabs in the Israeli judiciary. They have gay rights and voting freedoms in Israel. It's one of the few places they don't. In Lebanon, Egypt's secular, so it might be a look the other way thing. They certainly don't have hard rules like Iran does. Probably becomes a new caliphate of Palestine. Right, yeah. I'm serious. I mean, if anybody in there who's defending the idea, that's fine. But that would have to be, and certainly not abortion rights. It's a made-up conflict being used to hijack our emotions. A made-up conflict. I don't think so. I don't think anybody on either side of it is being made up. And also, again, do you think it's made up? Do you think there's... Mr. Spock, in our chat room, I'm genuinely asking this. Do you think it makes no difference if you're in a country with women's rights and with gay rights and with democratic rights and voting and all that kind of stuff, or not having those rights? That goes with the whole borders don't mean anything, nations are just made up. Really, I want to know if you think they're like borders don't mean anything and countries are just a creation, right? It's a fabrication of people's and people on either sides of a border don't really have. There's no difference between them in what they believe, right? And if you just drop the border, it'd be kumbaya. If you really think that, that's fine. I mean, I just want to hear that. Because I guarantee in a lot of those regions in the world, if it was just kind of like there are no borders, the land is whatever you can take. It doesn't all it all looks like the last day of the music festival, not the first day. That's just your opinion, man. Right. Right? Netanyahu's a fascist. I agree. I mean, I think part of the reason why Israel might have been, caught unawares during this was largely because he was dicking around with the judiciary trying to cover his own ass. He was busy being corrupt. It's why it matters who you elect. Yeah? Right? Innocent civilians should be protected on either side. Agreed. But also, I appreciate the emotion of that sentiment. I have no idea what it means in a material sense in a situation like this. Right? It can be true and have no material impact on the situation. Does that make sense? Doesn't mean you're bad for feeling it. I believe it's patently obvious. Which makes it all the more odd that Egypt rejects the refugees coming into their country. Right? So, well, I mean, that's another aspect of this. But it's worth having a conversation about this, right? I think so. Netanyahu and his whole government are horrible. I agree. I mean, his group within the government. I mean, obviously there's sort of an odd balance of power in the government, and it doesn't. Situations like this obviously lead. I think, quite frankly, there's this idea that Netanyahu was paying Hamas to just basically buying the peace so that he could say he presided over this, which ended up being the main finance line for a lot of this stuff happening, and allowing some of the Hamas people to come into the country under work visas and under the guise of Palestinians working in, and these are the people who made the maps of the towers and the cameras and all that kind of stuff that was used on October 7th. And Yahweh Sinwar has said this, right? Who's on Epstein's list? We'll know on, Lucius, we will know on January 1st, I think, right? Which is, again, I'm like, fuck them. I don't care. Yeah. So, also, so anyways, this goes to the whole, why, knowing how, again, you can make a distinction between which Palestinians support Hamas versus the PLO and the PA and all that kind of stuff. That's a discussion worth having as well. But in mass, the Palestinian Arabs are not for women's rights, gay rights, any of that stuff. They just aren't. In any numbers that will make a difference. And again, there may be a thing that since Hamas took over and killed some of the Fatah people, but they won a democratic election that everybody certified and seemed to feel fine about, that there might be people who are in these polling situations when they're asked, don't trust who's asking them, or because UNRWA, the UN organization that works in Gaza, hires Palestinians to work and has tons of Hamas working for them, whether they mean to or not. And that's why there's how this is not about women's rights. It will be. That's the point. That's the point. It will be. You have to think past what happens when the situation settles. If there's a one-state solution, Israel ceases to exist, what is the content of that country? If there's a two-state solution, what do the Palestinian territories look like? What are the rights and privileges of the people? What are you fighting for? What are you fighting for on that side of it? I'm dead serious. And if you think that once the Palestinian self-determination will result in their own government existing, what will that government do? How will they treat their own citizens and the citizens of other places, right? Yeah, I agree. No state should ever be run by Hamas, but that's the point of this. They were voted in, and that's part of it, right? 20,000 dead. First step is stop the death. Well, okay. First of all, those are Hamas's numbers, and none of them are enemy. None of them are combatants. None of them are adult military males. No one who has fired a rocket or shot a gun, according to Hamas, has died. That's their numbers. Serious. Can we at least agree that they do not differentiate? They'll say half are children or women and children or whatever, because that's the population of Gaza. Yeah? That's what they'll say. Is there any material evidence that those numbers are real? UNRWA's stopped reporting numbers. They don't have the ability to do it or what have you. Most of the civilians have moved south or whatever. But in the 20,000 that have died. And by the way, what do we know also about Gaza? Tell me something that you hear about Gaza. Something about what Gaza is and has been for the last decade. We've talked a little bit about this before. What are the standard lines that you've heard about Gaza? I'm dead serious. I want people to recognize a couple of things, right? Thanks, Francie. Thanks for the super chats. I know these are tough discussions, but I think it's worth having. You know what I mean? And I mean well. I don't think any of us want innocent civilians to die. I don't think any, and I think all of us, right? Open air prison. Okay. Okay. Open air prison, which has two borders that are in Israel, but the other border is Egypt, right? So if you have a prison and only two of the three walls, let's say, and we'll say the ocean is a wash, no pun intended. Only two of them are guarded by guards. How is it a prison? Why can't they come and go to Egypt? If Egypt is Arab and Egypt recognizes the existence of Gaza and the two-state solution and all that kind of stuff, why not? Why are the Egyptians as harsh about keeping them there as anywhere else? Why you leave your home? Well, that's because they might be Jordanians. They might have been Egyptians. The Egyptians controlled that area. A lot of the Palestinians who were born there are from people when Egypt controlled that area. They were Egyptians. Right? Also, okay, so open air prisons, the one big thing we heard. Okay. Which again, I guess they have, some prisons have work release. So maybe that's part of it because again, since 2015, they've been increasing the number of, exit visas from it for people to work in Israel and that kind of stuff, which by the way, insofar as I know, didn't happen on the Egyptian side, which is a curious thing. Israel started allowing Gazans to work in the Israeli territories and that kind of stuff, but Egypt didn't. We'll put a pin in that for later. Because, and again, I want people to say what they mean, and I want people to care about the innocent people in these situations. But I also don't want you to get hung up on things you can't back up that are like shallow, sort of knee-jerk hashtag responses to these things. Does that make sense? Because I don't want your empathy weaponized against you. Yes. So the other one is the most densely populated place on Earth. About the size of Manhattan, right? And the most densely populated. There are more people per square foot in Gaza than anywhere else in the world, right? We agree that's one of the things you hear everywhere. Yeah? Okay. Obviously, if it's the most densely populated place on Earth, then, yeah, more than Kowloon? Yes, I think so, actually. Kowloon Bay and the surrounding area, I think it's, if you're talking about like person per square foot or whatever, Gaza still beats it, or did anyways. Okay. Yes, indiscriminate bombing. We'll get to that in a second. So the other one, and this is, this is an important distinction. First of all, yeah, you can't launch rockets from a prison. That's true. I guess that would be part of it. But also, Kowloon is very packed. That is true. But it's not the density of this. If there has been a genocide of the Palestinian people going on for decades and decades and decades, the idea that the population of Gaza has gone up so much over the last couple of decades, especially, is an odd statement. It doesn't fit. It doesn't land. Maggie, I don't think I'm losing you. I don't think so at all. Unless we're covering too many things, if that's what you mean. But if you're turning against me for some reason because I'm trying to deal with these terms with you, you have to understand, as a comedian and as somebody who's talked about this kind of stuff, like words matter to me, probably on a spectrum level, if I will, and they hang up all the conversations about it. Yeah, 50% children, and again, something that does not happen in a genocide, and also a population doesn't grow during a genocide. In general, I'm talking in circles. No, we're trying to discuss each one. That's why I asked for specific points. That you're all over this. That's just your opinion, man. So okay. an open air prison where the prisoners allegedly have torn up the water pipes that were put there by the city or the state or whatever, and turned them into rockets and fired 7,000 to 15,000 of them in a 24-hour, 72-hour period, and have done it multiple times. And there hasn't been a month where they haven't fired rockets from the prison in this time or whatever. Okay. Well, the other part is the population density. Two aspects of this. Population density. One, the population has been growing, which is not, again, like we stated, doesn't happen during a genocide. That part doesn't make sense to me. And the idea that they want, you could say ethnic cleansing. I could see how people would argue that point. Like they're trying to get you out of the area. They're trying to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. The problem is, not all Arabs identify as Palestinians. Not all Palestinians identify as Arabs, I suppose. And so you can't ethnically cleanse an area if the idea is that you're going to take it over and allow Palestinian Arabs that have rights in Israel to have rights there. If you're brooming out Hamas, you're not brooming out all the Palestinians. And any of the Palestinians you have peace with apparently are living in and among you like they have been for a long time. And this is the Arabs that live in Israel that we're kind of talking about. If they exist, then the ethnic cleansing part is like, are they trying to move in people of the same genetic and religious lines into those areas after moving the other folks? No, they're not clay water pipes. They're metal water pipes. Twisted stepsister. Anyways, population rising, and so not a genocide, but the argument for ethnic cleansing is the idea that they want to get them out. But the problem is they're going to replace them ultimately, in theory, with the mix of Israeli citizens that includes Arabs and that kind of stuff, which is not a functional ethnic cleansing. Whatever. Anyways, that one runs aground sooner. Genocide runs aground sooner than ethnic cleansing does. And so if you're going to use the phrase, and you can believe that, I believe that people like Netanyahu and people in his group would like to, quote, ethnically cleanse not only Gaza, but it would be no problem to them if they got all the Arabs out of Israel too, probably. You know what I mean? Like those are a specific group. And I think you can make an argument that that's what they want, whether they're going for it or not. Does that make sense? This is a Midwestern goodbye? No, this is a Mideastern goodbye. Middle East goodbye. Okay, so the other one is, and again, the other thing about population density, and we've talked about this before, I fail to see how indiscriminate bombing, and that's the word that's been used, right? And the Biden administration's been on Israel about this, and he even used the term indiscriminate. What they're talking about is like guided missiles versus dive bombing missiles, which are what people were calling dumb bombs, which they aren't. So most people think of dumb bombing, right? This is the belief is an airplane flies over, and like Fat Man and Little Boy during during World War II, they fall off the bottom and they just fall wherever, right? They just drop it, and it's over a generalized area, or they leave a bunch of them. A bunch of them drop out, like exploding paratroopers, right? That's what most people think about dumb bombs, right? Does that make sense, chat room? I know there's a little bit of a delay, chat room, to get in. Okay, so the idea is that the majority of them, the bombs used by Israelis were dumb bombs or whatever. Okay, that's what most people think. Yeah, you have smart bombs and then you have dumb bombs. The dumb bombs aren't guided specifically. However, the Israelis, because they're specifically hitting buildings, because they have targeted these buildings that they have let people know, like, we're hitting this building, right? Yeah, they think of the Blitzkrieg. That's right, Vincent. What happens is, and I don't know if anybody saw the most recent Top Gun movie. Did anybody see that? Anybody see the new? Okay, so they have this one thing where they're going to have to fly through, and they or barrel bombs, right? They fly through this area and they have to do all this shit. It's like a video game. And then they have to fly down, and they're hitting this area where the nuclear material supposedly is housed, and try to blow it up inside the thing so it doesn't spread a giant cloud of awful. And so they have to fly over it, fly straight towards it, release their bomb, and then fly off. It's very Luke Skywalker, the whole thing. The idea is you fly over it and then you release it right at that point. But the guided part of it was that they have to point at it. Does that make sense? You can pay me to watch that tripe. Well, you're missing out. So anyways, it's it's got that awkward thing of people of different colors and cultures working together. I know it makes some people upset. Anyways, so they have to fly directly at it, and then they release it, and it's dumb in terms of you can't manipulate it once it's in flight, but it's aimed by the plane. It's not just dropped like it's fucking napalm. Okay, that's all bombs are dumb. All right, that's one argument. Yeah. So I'm just trying to, I'm trying to work this out with you. If anybody has, again, indiscriminate, trying to imply bombing everywhere, carpet bombing, right? That's right. Indiscriminate makes you think of carpet bombing. Dumb bombs make you think of carpet bombing, right? That's the idea. I don't think you're wrong to think that if those are the words you hear. Here's the biggest problem I've had. And again, this is my hang up. And if anybody has an answer to this, I would love to hear it, because there are these moments where I just go, all right, well, and it doesn't help the conversation. It doesn't make the Palestinians safer. It doesn't end this sooner. It doesn't solve anything to talk about it in these terms without actually, addressing it in terms of reality. Here's what it is. How do you indiscriminately, aka carpet bomb, the most densely populated place on Earth that has a population of 2.4 plus million people packed in like sardines, and the death toll is 20,000? Even if that's, like I said, real, even if it's the biggest number, even if you believe Hamas's numbers to the full aspect of it, right? You believe every single account, everything they're saying, all of it. Half of them are children and women, all that. If you believe all of it, how can you indiscriminately a place and you don't kill 750,000 people? How is that possible? Right? That's the part. Prison has an airport? Yes, it does. This is, yeah. So I was saying Biden is wrong to criticize. No, I'm not. No, I don't think that word fits. That's all. I don't think he's wrong to criticize Israel. As a matter of fact, I think he and Blinken and their work during the hostage negotiations, and again, Hamas broke that. Not the Israelis, not the United States. The hostages didn't do anything fucking wrong. It's a white man's trick? What's a white man's trick? Not killing hundreds of thousands? So what you're saying is that if a person of color was in charge, David, you're saying if a person of color was in charge, their carpet bombing would result in 500,000 dead? What? Yeah, that doesn't register. I agree with Trump on something. What do I agree with Trump on? No, because Trump would agree with carpet bombing for real. Right? That's the problem that I have with people on our side, like these alleged lefties, these alleged, like the Muslims who are mad at Biden for how he's handling this, even though it's not our conflict. It's happening, and we're a participant in it in some ways because we gave $3.8 billion worth of military aid to Israel and $4 billion worth of supplies to the Palestinians over the last decade, right? And it's like we paid for most of the stuff that UNRWA did. We paid for the pipes they turned into bombs. America paid for the metal piping in Gaza that Hamas dug up and turned into missiles. We did. And we were pretty goddamn specific about it. We're like, this should be used for humanitarian reasons. This is for water and food and medical supplies and hospitals. And they're like, oh, a hospital. Yeah, that's the 5 floors over our military compounds. That's what a hospital is. And oh, the piping? Great. Yeah, we need lots of that. Yes, that's why the water doesn't work. Yes. And again, there are two groups. And again, I want you to actually care about the innocents in this situation. And I'm not asking you to like Netanyahu, and I'm not expecting, and yes, all babies are innocent. I completely agree, which is where, by the way, apparently Hassan Abi and I disagree because he thinks babies are enemy combatants. I don't. Just say it for the record. Children, I would even argue, like, the Hamas uses 10 and 12-year-old boys as boy soldiers and as runners. And they carry weapons, and they are spotters, and they throw grenades, and they do all kinds of shit, and they use them to do this. Those kids are not culpable in this, but they are not victims of the person that kills them in an attempt to save their own life or stop violence. They are a victim of the people who made them do that. A child soldier who's taken by Boko Haram or somebody like that, who is sent into a place and is killed, in a battle, is not the victim of the person who shot them while they were being shot at by this 10-year-old kid. That kid is a victim of the person who put the gun in their hand. But they're still a victim because children are innocent. They can be used and manipulated by adults. It's fucking wrong. I don't care who does it. Right? So the Hamas uses 10 and 12-year-old boys as runners all the time. And they get killed all the time. And there's two groups. Here's why. Okay, so one of the things that started me on this, and then I'm going to leave you guys to just argue that I'm an asshole for the rest of the day, and know that no matter what you say about me, I'm still a loving person who would work with a group of people to get people out of a burning car, and I wouldn't give a rat fuck what color or religion they were, and you know it. And again, folks, you know this. I've done CPR 3 times in my life, and everybody survived. And none of them did I ask what their religious beliefs were or what their family background was. They weren't all white. Okay? That was one thing I could be sure of. I was definitely sure that the Guatemalan grandfather that I gave CPR to was not a white dude. Didn't even speak English. I didn't know that till after, right? I didn't care. I was just doing CPR on a stranger in a fucking airport because everybody else left. I don't give a shit. We can argue about stuff later. It's why I don't do political violence. It's not, never. I don't care who the fuck you are. If there's a heavy bookcase on top of you and you can't breathe, I'm going to try my best to get it off you, period. If we want to argue other shit, we'll do it later. By the way, if you, if I get the bookcase off you and then I find out you're I catch you molesting a child or doing something like that, I will cave your head in with a cinder block right there on the spot. But that's after. Up until I know those things, innocent until proven guilty. It's how I operate with all my fellow humans. I love you. All right. Now, this is from it's called Left Voice. Left Voice is a socialism website that does this kind of articles all the time. And the vast majority of the stuff on there, oddly enough, considering it is a largely Spanish and American socialism website, it's most of this shit is about, they do like here's one story about, the SAG strike, for example. And there's one about like forced abortion, that kind of idea in the United States. But the vast majority of the articles are about Palestine. And at the top, this is really fascinating to me. This is the thing. This is where the kind of socialism versus thing always strikes me as odd. Because again, I don't even know what the fuck they mean by socialism at a certain point. And I read their about us and their mission papers on this fucking thing, and it's very weird. So they start with, Argentinians take to the streets to protest Milei's pro-IMF austerity plan and authoritarian policies. The country doesn't have any money to push it back. Okay, never mind. And then there's the Hollywood strike. And then the rest of it is German government is attacking Jewish life in Germany. That means that Jews who are calling for, the elimination of Israel or something are under the same rules that, the neo-Nazi movement there who's saying the same shit is saying. Policing the fake anti-Semitism crisis on college campuses. So the it's fake. This is fake news. Fake news. Right. Palestinian self-determination in the fight for socialism is one of the big articles on here. Youth in the U.S. rise up in solidarity with Palestine. And again, solidarity is something we use in kind of perfunctory talk, but when they talk about it, there's a long line of the word back to Lech Walesa and solidarity, that's solidarity. And then there's labor. The bigger picture ones, they'll have pictures, in them to kind of draw you like, oh, okay, it's about a lot of different stuff. But then you keep going. The Economist lies. Israel is indeed committing genocide in Palestine, right? The farce of the two-state solution and the socialist perspective for Palestine. That's the one that's buried down in here. I mean, there's all this like, no, intifada does not mean genocide against the Jews when, yeah, a bunch of them absolutely mean that. They mean a revolution that results in the death of the Jews. So quit. Come on. Does everybody who says intifada mean a violent intifada? Of course not. Do the vast majority, if you pin them down, go, yeah, the Jews have got to go. All right. Well, then generalized usage. The rule, not the exception, especially when we're talking about language. But the weirdest part about it was, again, Biden doubles down on U.S. support for genocide. At least we're not using hyperbole. Meanwhile, but look at this one. This is the one that stood out to me. The farce of the two-state solution and the socialist perspective for Palestine. The farce of the two-state solution. Yeah, and it's exactly what you think it is. That this is, that, Israelis and Jews are colonists and they took land that the Arabs in the general area who only now call themselves Palestinians, used to be Egyptians, used to be Jordanians. Well, Jordan kind of existed at the same time. Might have viewed themselves as Lebanese or something like that. None of whom are welcome back in any of those countries. And, since, 1948, when there were no Jordanians before then, just saying, they're magically delicious. Those folks don't want any part of that, but they want it to just kind of sit there as this boiling front all the time. For decades, imperialist governments have been calling for a two-state solution. Congratulations. Any of you folks in here that think there should be a two-state solution? I'm one of them. How could I have been so silly? How could I have been so ridiculous to believe that there should be two states, that the Palestinians should have their own space of self-determination and that Israel can exist at the same time, and that at one day the border will be kind of like the U.S.-Canada border. You know what I mean? Like, you can come and go, and unless you're a criminal or a terrorist or something, you pretty much, you can get a visa if you need one, or maybe not. We'll have right? That should be fairly easy. But apparently, congratulations, you're an imperialist pig dog. You imperialist, capitalist pig dog. Tui. I spit on your haircut. That's right. You're, I didn't know, congratulations, by the way. You are an imperialist government if you have been calling for a two-state solution your whole fucking life, apparently. This is an obvious failure. But what would a socialist alternative look like? A debate with different socialist tendencies. You got some bias, dude? It comes out? No, I have some opinions. Experience is not bias. And also, lacking gullibility in certain areas is not a bias as well. Not automatically buying stuff. Is that cool? It's okay. Is it true Donald Trump stinks? Yes, he smells very bad. His breath is terrible. He doesn't really brush his teeth or floss. He apparently gets his veneers changed every 18 months. Right. Where you go. Yeah, as the 3 decades since the Oslo Accords have shown, the two-state solution is no solution at all. The Palestinian West Bank has been cut off into tiny enclaves by Israeli settlements, which is a smaller slice than the West Bank is very large. Far-right settlers have uninterruptedly built heavily fortified encampments with the support of the Israeli military. There's been several interruptions, and the U.S. pushes back on this all the time, but we can't make the Israelis not do it. Trump's a pedo. Prove me wrong. I don't think anybody would want to. And yeah, but yeah, I mean, he flew on Epstein's plane 6 times more than he said, and we know he used to write other people's name when he got on the plane. He would insist sometimes, right? Let's see. With the in order to make any kind of contiguous Palestinian territory impossible, which means connecting the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, which is very odd. Which means that from their point of view, the Palestinians have been trying to move and gather land to connect those two spaces, and according to these assholes, it's the settlers that are getting in the way of that. Which I would think most of us are like, no, the settlers are just trying to take territory that isn't theirs, right? Has Israel and Hamas committed war crimes? Over time, probably. Hamas definitely. And in terms of Israel, like striking hospitals and those kind of things or whatever, the problem is that under international law, if you house soldiers and military, supplies and that kind of stuff in hospitals, they become targets. If you don't believe me, ask the citizens of Dresden. Yep. Okay. You got to see a CNN piece on the West Bank. Which one? The most recent one or whatever? Okay. The 1993 Accords were intended to devote some of the IDF's administrative duties to a collaborator regime in certain areas, while Israeli settlers colonized the rest of the West Bank and Gaza. That hasn't been the case at all. If that was the plan in 1993, they didn't make it. Yeah. Their argument is that since 1993, Israel has been trying to settle Gaza. Well, in what was it, 2000? I got to look it up. 2015, I think, that when the any forces that were in there, the IDF forces that were in since the last attack from Gaza, the last big one anyways, because there's never not a day, but they moved out. They dug up their dead. There haven't been any Jews at all, living or dead, in Gaza. Certainly no Israeli Jews or even their dead people since 2015. They dug up their graves. 2007. Thank you. Yeah. So, more than 5 million Palestinian refugees live outside of Palestine. And again, that's not true, because some Palestinians, the Palestinian diaspora are not rejected Palestinians. They can go back, and some of them do. They live in different areas. A lot of them were what were effectively Jordanian and lost the territory when Jordan tried to take more of Israel. And then this is the whole like Trotskyite thing and the socialist two-state solution, that they have some version of it. I read this whole thing. I went through this idea, and throughout there is this idea that there will be the only way that if there's a version of this is the thing, if there's a version of the two-state solution where Gaza becomes the new Singapore, and it's a great space for the Palestinians and all that stuff, these fuckers say it has to be torn down. Genuinely. That if the Palestinians were ever to get, an economic footing and become a functioning country. Yeah, Jordan was created by the British Empire. Well, it was named by the British Empire. The territory was carved out from the British Protectorate. It's just fascinating. Like the idea is that if there is to be if there's a two-state solution at one point, and even if it's peaceful and everybody gets along, these folks are saying you have to destroy it because there must be a socialist Palestine. I don't, they haven't been through enough shit. You're going to tell me that the Palestinians, let's say Hamas gets drummed out. The Israelis create they ask for UN peacekeepers to come in and categorize the Gaza Strip into 4 sectors that is policed internally by the Palestinians along with UN forces, so that there's no terrorists getting a foothold there, and it becomes and the food and all the aid that the rest of the world and the United States especially gives to the Palestinians, it goes to them, and they're able to stabilize, and they're able to build again, and they're able to have industry and do all this kind of shit, and it'll be great. And they get to a certain point where they're fantastic. The Palestinians are doing great. These folks are saying that has to be destroyed. And I don't know about you, but that sounds like madness to me. And again, the non-socialist one-state solution, which is the idea that I suppose they're calling for, a single democratic state in historical Palestine, grant equal rights for everyone from the river to the sea, as the slogan goes. Israel's former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert once declared the principle one man, one vote, which means the state of Israel is finished, which no, it doesn't, because that's the idea is that they would swamp the voters in that area, and that's why they've been having babies, is the idea that one day they're going to knock down the thing, and it'll be one vote, and we'll just have more populist thing, and we'll rescind the right of Jews to return, and that'll outnumber them. That's the point. It's so weird. Olmert, a far ethno-nationalist, who by today's standards is considered a moderate, whatever, that's their little injunction, thus made clear that Zionism and democracy are fundamentally incompatible. The state of Israel explicitly defines itself as not a state of citizens, but a state of the Jewish people, but that everybody does have one man, one vote. They did actually incorporate that. This means that Israel is not by any standards democratic. Yes, it is. You don't have to be a Jew to serve in office. You don't have to be a Jew to live there. So it is. That's like saying America's majority Christian and therefore it's not democratic. Because for a long time, that was the primary thing. They were trying to draw Christians from all over the world. There was a movement in the mid-40s and 50s to make European Christians come to the United States. That was true. That happened for a long time. And what happened, by the way, is that a lot of those good Christians who were kind of like moderate middle class people who just wanted to do stuff, they all moved to fucking Minnesota and shit like that. And they weren't there to block what ultimately the Germans did to the Jews, because they would have. So anyways, some socialists also, and this is the idea. Okay, so some socialists also defend the idea that a single democratic, secular, but non-socialist state is the way forward. Some socialists. Do you think it's these guys? No. Socialists in the tradition of Tony Cliff, grouped in the International Socialist Tendency, which is fabulous, call for the International Socialist Tendency. That is so fantastically early 60s woke languaging. Hey, whatever. If you're left-leaning. It's just great. The Socialist Workers' Party, which is very serious, of Great Britain, recently explained what a single-state solution would look like on page 11 of their PDF. Okay. As a model, they mentioned that the threat of revolution forced the South African leaders to dismantle apartheid laws and separate disenfranchise black South Africans from white ones. Right, but there aren't white Israelis and black Israelis, or black. The Palestinians aren't black and the Israelis aren't white. And they didn't come back in there. And this is the whole idea of colonization that they're selling. Yet the example of post-apartheid South Africa shows that despite the abolition of explicitly racist laws, the inequality between white and black people has actually increased. This shows the limits of such democratic victories under capitalism. So if you get rid of an apartheid state, you end the apartheid state. You've heard it's an apartheid state. You end that, it's not going to fix stuff. As a matter of fact, it's going to make it worse. It's going to make the Jews even more powerful because they're very sneaky and they hide their horns. So, and then this is hilarious to me, the Socialist Federation of the Middle East. This is why socialism gets a bad name, and why the Republicans try to associate it with things like Social Security and shit like that. Yeah. This is what they're talking about. When we're like, when they attack socialism, we're all like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? Honest to God. That's not what we're talking. That's not what Democrats want. Just wanting insurance companies to have to pay out when you've gotten health insurance, right? That's not weird. Having a public option where you can buy into it again, or you're provided it where you can spend that money wherever you want because you can choose whatever service you want, but the availability of getting the service is there, right? You still have the freedom to use the money in your pocket to go wherever you want to get treatment. As long as it's real treatment, you can't have one of these healthcare plans that we'll treat you for your heart attack, but we're not going to send an ambulance for you. All right, well then what's the fucking point? Since that's kind of the crucial aspect, right? Well, and whenever we're talking about, like, whenever they're shitting on socialism and they're attaching, and a lot of us are like, what are they on about? Right? This is what they're on about. This is what they're attaching it to. Because this is what, quote unquote, hashtag real socialists believe. And they also believe, if you read their Who Are We paper, which is fucking hilarious, they don't get along with anybody. Here's why, and this, I'll tell you why. Here you go. Let's go to their main page, and we'll go to Who Are We? And I'll end on this. Who we are. There we go. This is I gotta say, okay. Who we are. They would like you to believe they're all black ladies with septum piercings and paintings of great South American revolutionary artists on their earrings. And they're fighting for Black Lives Matter and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, that's what they want. That's the picture. Who wants to guess that almost none of the people on their board look like that lady? Just for the record. It's odd, but just saying. Okay. On top of that, okay. They're a revolutionary socialist news site, magazine, cool, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is what they believe. We are revolutionary socialists. We don't think you can reform away capitalism. We have to crush it and build a sustainable socialist society. We believe human survival and the survival of the planet depends on it. Socialism or barbarism. Don't barbarians crush other societies? Isn't that literally the fucking Conan quote? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of the women. And then establish a socialist utopia. Right? It's just funny they use the word crush. It's just very hilarious. We are against both Democrats and Republicans. That's fair. The two parties of capital and imperialism. We must remember that both historically and currently, the Democratic Party is the graveyard of social movements. You know, the party that literally lost the South forever and decided to do it to get civil rights passed. You know, the graveyard where suffrage is. Right? Wasn't our Senate Majority Leader, didn't he call himself the Grim Reaper because he got, no, wait, that was someone else. Yeah. Our fight must be independent of all parties of capitalism, imperialism, and class collaboration. This is the weird part. That's, of all this shit, does this, and I'm sure we have somebody who identifies as a social leader. Can you explain this shit to me? So you don't want the classes where you don't want middle class people to help poor people? Or you don't want rich people to go, you know what? I make too much money. I think I should spread it around a little bit. I'm going to fight for a higher tax rate. Right? What? You don't want classes to, how do you do it without class collaboration? If the middle classes give a rat fuck about the lower class or or poor people, the poor people don't have any means to do anything to collaborate with. What are you talking about? Yeah, it's just anti-democratic horseshit. Do we have a caste system? No, we do not. But apparently, if we did, this is the point. That is an argument for a caste system. Right? What's a caste system except no class collaboration? Right? That's the thing about a caste system is we don't mix with them and they don't mix with us. The fuck? We are anti-imperialists and internationalists. Okay, they are internationalists. They're not anti both of those things. They are pro-internationalism, even though they don't, I guess. We oppose bombs. That's a good start. Okay, cool. I guess that's letting us know that it's nice to know that they aren't going to bomb anyone. Borders. Okay, physical or ideological borders? Because I'm going to guess you can't join their organization if you don't share the idea, right? Like I would like to join be a reporter on Left Voice, and I view myself as an Ayn Rand anarcho-capitalist, libertarian, right? Yes. So segregation, you're right? No. But they wouldn't let me join. That's the funny part. And I'm for most of the things they would like to see happen. Ironically. Just I call it a different name in some cases. And because I don't call it the right name, then I'm an enemy. And I'm worse than the people who are actively fighting to make sure nothing ever like it happens. That's the part that's fucked up. And I'll show you, I'm not kidding. That's what they think. That's really. Okay. Sanctions, coups. Oh, that's good. and the entire imperialist machine. I'm sorry, are bombs, borders, sanctions, and coups part of the entire imperialist machine? That's just a necessary part? Because I'm pretty sure that imperialists aren't big fans of coups either, right? And they hate sanctions. So maybe just split the difference. As well as the political parties who build and fund them. We also believe that we must build an international organization, which is why Left Voice is part of the Trotskyist fraction internationally and part of the La Izquierda Diario News Network. Great. Cool. So collaborations, international collaborations across borders, and yet at the same time, borders within the organization. Okay. We believe the working class, okay, cool, organized in their workplaces and nowhere else, no, can bring this system to a stop. We believe the working class organized in their workplaces can bring this system to a stop and unite with oppressed people to build a new society. I thought you didn't want class collaboration. I'm very confused. Yes, we are in the socialism weeds here. Okay, so anyways, internationalism imperative. Okay, then my favorite part is the end. Let's see. This is where it gets funny. We also fight for the liberation of the working class and oppressed people from liberation of oppressed people from progressive regimes around the world. Working class and oppressed people are being oppressed by supposed progressive regimes around the world. They mean your fucking Swedes, you and your fucking Norway and all your Northern European shit. The working class must control society to liberate it from capitalism. While defending all countries against U.S. imperialism, we do not support the governments of Latin America's Pink Tide, Cuba, China, or any of the supposedly socialist countries in which workers do not hold the reins of power. We also reject the campus perspective of much of the U.S. left that has led them to support countless bourgeois governments across the world. You campus lefties, you campy lefties, reject the campus perspective, like big tent policies. Trying to get everybody in so that eventually you might convince them that you have the right. Fuck those people. Out. Then we believe that internationalism requires a tireless and constant solidarity with workers and oppressed people across the world against the bourgeoisie, both in their own countries and in imperialist powers. We believe that the revolution will not be completed until everyone across the world is finally free of the yoke of capitalism, which they do not define at all. Yeah. Yeah. The yoke of capitalism. I prefer the white of capitalism, I guess. The yoke of capitalism. Notice how there's not a list of Left Voice, militant journalism, revolutionary politics. Yeah, all that's left. Brief history of anti-Zionist Jews. Did German leftists try to bomb West Berlin's Jewish Community Center in 1969? No. A man was arrested for stealing a crust of bread. They asked him why, and he said, "I only like crust." I love you guys. I know I went long, but super chatism is capitalism. That's right. Meanwhile, I would like to thank our patrons for making today's conversation possible, because I like eating. And I like having food for my child, and thank you. And a Merry Christmas to everybody, even though it's a horrible imperialist capitalist holiday created by Zionist, Muslim, and Christian monotheists who took over the indigenous Northern European pagan religions and stole their imagery and their saints and their iconography. Bastards and your bastard faces. We are living free speech. This is true, yeah. And I think we managed, all right? I know some people pissed off because they got mad and couldn't hear what I was saying. But I look forward to a world where we outsmart death and we reach a escape velocity between especially religious and territorial and resource-based fights between humans. And I wish everyone happy holiday season, whatever they may have or not have. And I will have a show this afternoon, so I'm not saying a full goodbye or whatever. I've been here too. Look, I had an extra hour. And you know what? I blame the kidney. Don't forget. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you later on today. Please, by the way, and the iron boot of oppression, yes, but only for some people. And as long as you don't help anybody who's not in the same economic strata as you, you're doing okay. That's the important part. I think the message we can all take away from the lovely, super socialists, the one true socialists over at the lefty place or whatever, is that the most important thing you have to do is never help anyone who's in a lower class than you. Ew. I'm going to go break that rule. Okay. Have a great day. Thank you, Jesse. Merry Christmas. Love you, Andrea. Get well soon. Relax.